Clerk, you're here, vote aye. You're here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right. What I want to do is take care of just minor, stuff, transfers, buy for the days and things like that first. Senator Rouse, your 1545, I've been told should be referred to general laws. Okay, is that, that's okay? All right, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1545 be referred over to general laws. All those in favor, it has to be a recorded vote, I believe. Vote aye.
Ayes 14, no zero.
All right, then the Senate Bill 1441, Senator Locke's, she wants that by for the day. So without objection, 1441 will go by for the day. Senator Peterson, we'll have to vote, wants 1496. That's also passed by for the day. Without objection, that's by for the day. Senator Edwards, Senate Bill 1083, also, that's by for the day. 1083. All right. Senator Morrissey has 1485 and wants us to strike the bill. So I think that's recorded. Yeah. Those in favor of striking the bill, vote aye. Those opposed, nay. All right. 1485 is stricken.
Ayes 14, no zero.
All right. What did he say?
You say 13, 11.
Second.
You want 1311 by for the day? What? Stricken. All right. The sponsor has requested that Senate Bill 1311 be stricken. All those in favor of doing so, vote aye.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Okay. Senator Cosgrove's 1347, at the request of a committee member, is by for the day, without objection. All right, Senate Bill 840, the request by the patron is, and this will require a recorded vote, pass by indefinitely with a letter to the Department of Labor and Industry, excuse me, sorry. Labor and Industry. All right, all those in favor of passing by indefinitely with a letter to Labor and Industry, vote aye. All right, Senator
Ayes
Mason.
13, no zero.
Okay, Senator Mason, you requested 1217 go by for the day. All right, without objection, 1217 is by for the day. And Senator Bell has asked that Senate Bill 1435 be passed by indefinitely with a letter to with a letter to the Commissioner on Unemployment Compensation. All right, there's a motion and a second to pass by for the day 1435 with a letter to the Unemployment Commission. All those in favor, vote aye.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay. All right, we'll now start in the Energy Subcommittee. Senator Spruill?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to start off with hoping we can get some ease on out of the way. Senate Bill 1323, Senator Jim McCollum, 1323, require the State Corporation Commission to establish an annual energy efficiency target that produce energy savings for lower income eligible poor. This bill is similar to Senate Bill 347 that passed last year. It passed both chambers but was vetoed by the governor because of the public interest. There was a subcommittee adopt a friendly amendment to take care of that. So it was voted out of this committee 5-0. I so move.
Second.
I'm sorry, we have an amendment. I apologize. I move the amendments, please.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and seconded that the amendments be approved.
Yeah,
All
and,
of staff said aye. I want you to explain that first.
okay. The amendments made a couple of changes to the dates on lines 29, changed 27 to 2028, and changed 2029 to 2030. There was one that the committee forgot to make that Tom brought to my attention that we probably also on line 29 need to change 2030 to 2031 to, we forgot that one in committee.
The 2031, line 39?
Yes.
Correct.
All right,
I would move that amendment.
second. You have a second? Second. Proper move and second that amendment be approved. All of the sign saying aye. All opposed? Yeah, with that, Mr. Chairman, then recommend as amended that we would report Senate Bill 1323.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Yes, sir.
As amended.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Senator Obenshain.
Just quick question. Did I read this correctly? This is to be funded with Reggie proceeds?
So separate legislation has Reggie proceeds fund, the bill, Senator Lewis's bill from a couple of years ago had already established that Reggie funds could be used for energy efficiency programs. I don't know that this one specifies that
Mr.
separate
Chairman,
from
I guess
existing
my
law.
understanding is consistent with that, is that this utilizes that pool of funds in order to fund this program.
Unless Tom can correct me if I'm wrong, it does not specify that in this legislation. Tom, am I wrong about that? Well, that says that the utility will make best efforts to coordinate the energy efficiency programs in this bill with whatever health and safety upgrades they do through energy efficiency programs funded through Reggie, through Senator Lewis's bill. So it basically says, if you have two separate energy efficiency programs, make sure that they're aligned. That's what that line says.
Mr. Chair, I've got another question.
Yes, sir.
Senator Deeds.
If we made the change on line 29, 2028 through 2031, do we need to make a similar change or down on line 39?
We just did that.
We've already done that?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Newman.
Senator, so back to the Obenshain question. Is it from funds that are available, including those funds, or are there all the funds coming from Reggie? In other words, are there other funds
This,
that also are included other than Reggie in the energy efficiency section?
so this bill does not speak to that.
I understand.
This bill basically says you will have an energy efficiency standard so that any energy efficiency programs that you have, the savings from that will accrue to the customers through their rates. And the line that Senator Obenshain pointed to said, any energy efficiency programs you use to meet the standards should align with any energy efficiency standards that are funded through Reggie. It is silent as to whether you use Reggie money, you use utility money, or any other type of money. Could be federal infrastructure money, for example, or IRA money.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions, we move as amended, move the report.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report as amended, Senate Bill 1323. All those in favor of reporting that bill, vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Ayes 14, noes 1, the bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We want to hold off on the other one, if you don't mind. Don't go nowhere, please. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Next, we have is Senate Bill 1447.
I can sit down.
Yes, please, 1447. Now, Mr. Chairman, that is by Senator Edwards, Mr. Chairman, that bill. But before you do that, the committee heard this bill, Mr. Chairman, and so a motion to recommend reporting fails by lack of a second. We heard it, so just as you have a subcommittee to hear all bills and not to repeat over and over again, the committee heard this, it did not get a second. So based on that, I move that we PBI the bill.
Mr. Chairman, substitute motion. Right here. Substitute motion to report.
Madam Chair. Mr. Chair.
Senator Edwards.
What this bill is, it's a Section 1, Section 2 bill. And it was designed to have the State Corporation Commission to conduct a proceeding to establish limitations on disconnections of utility services. And in addition to that, Section 2 would be have the municipal electric utilities and others similarly not regulated by the State Corporation Commission to adopt an internal operating policy regarding disconnect. So that, my understanding is there's an agreement among the parties to do this, since the SCC to conduct the proceeding, and it's a Section 1, Section 2 bill.
Yes, sir.
So the matter be reported.
All right. That's your disconnection and suspension.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman,
Senator Obenchain. Oh, okay. All right, there's, okay.
Mr. Chairman, we did full vetted the bill and a substitute. We heard the whole bill. And everybody who testified, those who for and those who were against it, with the substitute. And when I called for a motion, there we could not get a second. And because everybody on the committee, we were all present. Because we did not get a second, we heard the bill thoroughly. So with that, I move that we PBI the bill. Yes, sir. I'm just explaining to the chairman. Yes, sir. If we pause it.
Yeah, this doesn't have to go. All right.
Mr. Chairman, the most recent
The
bill
motion
was to
before
report.
the committee,
Yeah.
the substitute motion, is to report the
Substitute was never adopted.
1447. All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. Well,
I thought it did, okay. Yes, it is.
Ayes 9, no 6.
ayes 9, no 6, the bill is reported.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask, before we do that, there was a substitute on that made it better, and it seemed
I
like,
said with the substitute.
oh, so we did put substitute on it?
Yes.
Okay, that's helpful.
Well, the substitute was never adopted.
I thought it was adopted in subcommittee.
It was in the subcommittee, Mr. Chairman.
Does that count for the full committee?
Yeah, yes. Yes.
All right. So to make sure we're doing it right, I would, having voted, well, I didn't vote on the prevailing side. Somebody would have to reconsider that.
On the prevailing side, I make a motion that we reconsider that vote so we can adopt the substitute.
All right, it's motion to reconsider, vote aye. All right.
Ayes 14,
There's
no
a
0.
motion and a second. Is there a second?
Yes,
To
second.
adopt the substitute to Senate Bill 1447. All those in favor of adopting the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Second.
There's a motion, second, to report the substitute to Senate Bill 1447. All those in favor, vote aye.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Ayes 9, no 6, the bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next bill we have, Mr. Chairman, is Senate Bill 1477, Senator Lewis. authorize Dominion Energy to request permission from the SCC to bring on a financial partner for the offshore wind project. It was, I think there was no amendment, it was approved, no amendments? The amendment has been approved already, I believe, with the amendment. So as amended, record this, the committee.
The
will
amendment had,
agree.
Mr. Chair, the amendment's not been approved by the full
It
committee.
has not, okay. Mr. Chairman, I move the amendment, please.
All right, there's a motion and a second to adopt committee amendment. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right,
Could you, Mr. Chair, could somebody explain the amendment we just adopted?
Senator Spruill.
Help me out, brother, help me out, help a brother out, help a brother out.
They're technical in nature,
Ms.
but
Go ahead.
I'll ask Mr. Murray to come up and tell you all.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Murray with Dominion Energy. The amendments, from just from memory, is to add the word, you find it in the bill, add the word solely in reference to the offshore wind partner having the powers of a public utility. And I'll remind you, public utility is broader than just Dominion or APCO. It means any power plant solely for purposes of the project. So it inserts that. And then I apologize, I am blanking on the second technical amendment. So I'll
Chair,
ask Ms. Noonan just remind me what it was.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Christine Noonan with Reed Smith on behalf of Dominion. The other amendment would have just clarified that the affiliate is subject to the commission, to
Yes.
the jurisdiction of the
That
state
what?
corporation. That the offshore wind affiliate is subject to the jurisdiction of the state corporation commission. It is a
Okay.
clarifying
Yeah,
and
and it's in the
technical.
definition of the
Right.
affiliate.
All right, you've heard it. Is there anyone opposed to the bill? All
Anyone
right.
on Zoom?
Mr. Chairman, as amended, it was recommended by the committee to approve.
All right, we've adopted the amendment.
Yes.
All right, the bill is now before us. There's a motion
So move, Mr.
to
Chairman.
report 1477 as amended. And a second. All those in favor of reporting 1477, say aye. Aye. Or, excuse me, vote aye.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Right, yes. Mr. Chairman, next is Senate Bill 1541 of Senator Lewis. Mr. Chairman, we have a substitute that we have not seen yet. Senator Lewis?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the substitute, there was a little heartburn on the original bill because it directed that these projects be approved. This bill just requires that the SCC take action within 270 days, either up or down. Specifically, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this bill deals with what is a crisis, a power and energy crisis in eastern Loudoun County. It speaks to roughly 5 transmission projects. That's not necessarily transmission lines, but that's extensions and cable conductors and substation construction, things of that nature. Without these projects, PJM will be unable to ensure electricity demand is met. I think Dominion indicated to some of the customers in eastern Loudoun County that they could not guarantee the power needed under their purchase agreements, and that's what these projects are designed to move forward. There was, as I said, some heartburn with directing that the SCC approve these, essentially approve these projects. So with this, and I think this removes the heartburn, we're simply asking them to act within 270 days of receiving the certificate of public convenience.
This is on approving the lines.
Mr. Chair, is there a substitute for this?
All right, there's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute to 1541. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman, with that, with the substitute been adopted, the subcommittee moved to report 1541 as substitute.
All right. You heard the motion. Is there a second? To pass 1541 with the substitute. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Mr. Chairman, the next one is Senate Bill 1125. Senator Hackwell, please come up.
All right, Senator Hackworth, Senate
Yes.
Bill 1125.
Mr. Chairman, this one, Mr. Chairman, was reported by the committee 3-2, and there were some heartburns on it, so I felt maybe that he should come to the committee and to explain to the committee, and we go from there, please. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. SB 125 would permit the SEC to extend the timeframes for facility retirements and the proportion of generation derived from specific energy resources as it deems necessary if it finds that compliance with such requirements would threaten the reliability or security of electric service to customers. The Clean Economy Act contains reliability provisions, but as the SEC reported in September, the Commission's powers in these instances are reactive, which may cause grave delays in addressing vital reliability needs. So this bill would give the SEC the authority to adjust timelines after due process hearings, et cetera, based on the best interest of ratepayers. And the bill does not give the SEC the discretion to eliminate the ultimate objective of carbon-free electric grid.
Mr. Chair, in my notebook, I've got both a bill and a substitute.
So this is the
That,
substitute.
you just described the
Yes,
substitute.
this is what that we voted on that come out of the subcommittee.
So do we need to adopt the substitute?
So move.
All right, there's a motion to adopt the substitute. All those, to Senate Bill 1125, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Substitutes before us.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Chair, Senator Deves, I thought that was done. But that is the substitute that I described to you there.
Okay, any further questions of the patron? Anyone out there in support?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
All right. Are you all in support?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Mitch Burton with the Attorney General's office, we are in support of the bill.
Mr. Chair, committee members, Will Clear. I'm the acting director of the Virginia Department of Energy.
Okay, can you get closer to the?
Sure. Will Clear. I am the acting director of the Department of Energy, and we support this bill because we see the reliability, opportunities.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, John and Morris at Appalachian Power, we also are in support of the bill. Thank you.
Any opposition?
There are no speakers on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Climate Cabinet Action, we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Connor Kish on behalf of the Sierra Club, we also oppose the bill.
Mr. Chairman, Victoria Higgins on behalf of Chesapeake Climate Action Network Action Fund, and we oppose this bill.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Kim Jermaine with Advanced Energy United, and we oppose.
Okay. All right.
Well, we'll say, Mr. Chair, that's less than I had in subcommittee, so.
Okay. All right. The substitutes before us, all those in favor of reporting. Is there a motion to report? Motion and a second to report substitute to Senate Bill 1125. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ayes 5, noes 10.
Okay. I've got one more, but I guess they'll be taken up later.
Mr. Chair, I've got another motion on that bill. I move that we pass the bill by indefinitely.
You have to, yeah. Whoever voted on the prevailing side has to reconsider.
Mr. Chairman, having voted on the prevailing side, I move that we can reconsider that vote.
Prevailing side.
I voted on the prevailing side, I voted no.
That's what I would think.
I mean, I've never heard of that before.
If the motion to report fails, the bill is failed, and it needs to be reconsidered. Any other motion?
No, well, if it's dead, it's dead.
Let's move on to something else.
All right.
Time to move on.
The bill is not reported. Okay, thank you.
My other one, just wait on it, Mr. Chair. The other bill I have, just wait on it.
Senate Bill 1121.
No,
Okay,
sir.
go ahead.
Do it too?
Yeah.
All right.
I got two more.
Oh, hold on.
That's what I
He's
thought.
got,
Two more. Mr. Chairman, we have two bills that's left, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1265 and Senate Bill 1321. They were similar in nature. 1321 has a lot of doing what's in 1265. And that we had recommended if they could not work it out with Senator McCollum, I believe. I'm talking about you, Jan. Jan, I'm talking about you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, Senator Reeves was distracting me.
1321, Mr. Chairman, and your bill 1265, because there was some similarities to the two bills. 1321 was in that bill. We were going to recommend to strike both bills if they could not work it out.
We worked it out.
And now, so here, Mr. Chairman, I'm hoping now, according to the Senator McCollum, she said, we have worked it out. I have not heard from my chairman, and you are my chairman. I have not heard from you, so 1265. So since I have not heard from you, we're gonna go with first 1321. Now, my first question to you, did y'all work this out?
We sure did.
Thank you so much. Please, please.
There is a substitute.
Move the substitute.
As a reminder, what Senate Bill 1321 does is for both Dominion and APCO, it allows the commission, in the substitute, if the commission in a rate proceeding finds that the utility over or under-earned over their rate of return, they can do something about it. That's the short version. The concept of this is included in the chairman's bill for Dominion. This bill covers both Dominion and APCO, and the issue was because you have the chairman's bill and a separate bill for APCO that may move where in the code the commission's authority over earnings lives. Rather than referencing a code section that might end up being moved, we just put a lot of words here and avoided referencing another section of the code. So the concept is still the same. The reason you see more words is because the code section it was referencing could change.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, since that bill is similar to 1265, you want to have someone from Dominion to come up to explain, because we can do both of them at the same time.
let me start on that.
Yes, sir.
And I'll turn it over to Senator Lucas.
So do you want to do this one? We still can do 1321?
Okay.
Senator Saslaw, you have Senate Bill 1265.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, hold on a minute, hold on. Mr. Chairman, it's two separate bills now. We're going to vote on them.
Yes, I know that.
In that case, then, we want to hold off and let's do hers
Okay.
first then. Thank you.
All right. Go
So,
ahead, Senator.
once they have worked it out, Mr. Chairman, with both concerned with Dominion and your bill, it has been worked out, and they're all concerned with that, Mr. Chairman. I move, is that a substitute?
There's a substitute.
I move the substitute and approval. I recommend to approve.
All right. It's been recommended that, are there any amendments?
Yes, sir, we did that already, right?
I second
We already
the
adopted.
substitute, the motion for the substitute.
All right, there's a motion to report the substitute 1321. Is there a second?
Second.
To adopt the substitute, excuse me. All those in favor of adopting the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the bill's before us. Is there anyone to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chair.
Hold on, Senator Newman.
So, Senator McClellan,
Yes.
we talked a lot about your bill. Your
Yes.
bill, at least in concept, is now encompassed in Senator Saslaw's bill in regards to
Dominion.
the fact that Dominion, or Senator Saslaw's bill, regards to, you're still going to have a peer group, but the State Corporation Commission, per your bill, is going to be determining the rates. Is that correct? The
no.
part that's in your bill,
No.
in his bill.
You're conflating two separate issues. The Senator Saslaw's bill deals with how do you determine the rate of return in, and I'm going to make up years. Under Senator Saslaw's bill, if you have a rate case in 2023, then among other things, the commission will set the rate of return. The peer group is used to set the rate of return. So they will set, here's the rate of return, here are the base rates, go forth and do what you're going to do. What my bill does is in 2025, when they come in for their 2025 rate case, the commission will say, did you over-earn or under-earn the rate of return we set in 2023? And if they find that you over-earned, they can adjust your rates accordingly going forward. If they find you under-earned, they can adjust your rates going forward. But this bill has nothing to do with how you calculate that rate of return.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So I think I do understand that. Yours is just your old section, however, has been put into the Saslaw bill. And the question is does your bill now look forward and backward, or is yours just a look back?
Mine is just a look back to say, if you over-earned, we can fix that going forward. If you under-earned, we can fix that going forward.
Madam Chair. Mr. Chair. Yeah, just briefly. Mr. Chairman, I guess the last question is, what if you're looking forward and you see things looking forward and you know there's been over-earnings, can you offset that under this with what you see coming forward?
My bill doesn't speak to that. My bill just says you can do something about it. You can either reduce rates, you can raise rates accordingly, or Senator Saslaw's bill, I think, would address, can you do
The
even
look
more
forward.
than that?
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if we finish, Madam Chair, then if no other question, move to report as, apologize,
Is there
okay.
anyone in the auditorium supporting the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Bill?
Mr. Chairman, Bill Murray, on behalf of Dominion Energy, appreciate the Center for working with us. We support her bill, and her bill in the relevant section of Senator Saslow's bill is recited word for word. There's no difference.
Well, Part A.
Right.
Or B, sorry. The part dealing with Dominion is in Senator Saslaw's bill. The part dealing with APCO, obviously, is not.
Any opposition?
They're actually both.
We have one speaker on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, Mr. Chairman. Monique H., go ahead and unmute and provide your testimony, please.
Thank you. This is Monique Hannes with the Virginia Grassroots Coalition. We represent 50 groups and 15,000 voters across the Commonwealth, many in your districts, and we fully support the bill. Thank you.
That completes the speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there a motion and a second to adopt to report the substitute 13, Senate Bill 1321?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and all those in favor vote aye. Opposed, nay.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, my last one is Senate Bill 1265. That's your bill, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Saslaw, you have Senate Bill 1265.
Okay. The goal of this bill was initially put in, and that hasn't changed for the goal, is to have more affordable rates while enabling investments that are needed to be made to the electric grid with the new sources of power that they're currently working on. Since this bill was heard in subcommittee, and this is important, these are the changes that have been made to the version that's before us. First, we deleted the first part of the bill that deals with the large customers choosing alternative suppliers of electricity. And I'm somewhat still concerned about that, but I think the best course now is for us to write to the State Corporation Commission and ask them to examine the whole issue. Second, the language dealing with the power plant retirements, which a lot of the people objected to, has been removed from the bill, okay? And by the way, the bill now is essentially, let me finish, is totally dealing with rates, not with environmental issues. Senator, if you remember in the original bill, if there were over earnings, 70% would be rebated to the customers, 30% to the company. It's now with Senator Marsden's amendment, 85% will go to the customers, 15% to the power company, to Dominion. Fourth, we've just adopted, we put Senator McClellan's bill is also in this. Probably the biggest change, there's new language at the beginning of the substitute to allow Dominion Energy to ask, and the key word being asked, the SCC to scrutinize the uncollected fuel balances. As the very first paragraph in the bill makes clear, the SCC is free to deny the request, okay? However, given the fact that more than $1.5 billion in uncollected fuel costs are out, we just thought it would be important to have this option for the SCC to consider. And the reason is to avoid a fuel price spike on the order of nearly $17 a month, okay? Let me repeat that. To avoid possibility of just on that alone, $17 a month. Finally, if you remember in the original bill, we had requested that 300 million of riders go into the base rate. We've now increased that to 350 million. So as you can see, there's been substantial changes. And you can.
Madam Chair,
Senator Sproul.
move the substitute.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor say aye.
Can I, Madam Chair,
Se-
it's my understanding there was a substitute
Senator Deeds.
offered in subcommittee. Is that the subcommittee, is that the substitute we just adopted, or?
Yes.
This is a new one,
Yes, sir.
since the subcommittee, and that's what that Senator Sasslaw was described,
That's right.
the new substitute.
And there's one
Senator Sasslaw.
amendment, Madam Chair, that we're going to have to make. The 300 to 350 million, we can do that here, was not in the substitute that has been prepared. That came in over the weekend. So we would need to adopt the last description I made of changing the rate cut going to increase from 300 million to 350 million.
Madam Chair? Okay, fine.
Senator Marsden. It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment be agreed to. All in favor say aye.
Madam-
Senator Sproul.
That was my question.
Okay.
Madam Chair, it's a
Senator Deeds.
It's a 56-page substitute. I'm just wondering how, I'm wondering how much of this language is different from the substitute which we had before today, which we saw today before.
Counsel.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair?
Senator Sproul, and then I'd like to call Bill Murray back up to the lectern. Senator Sproul.
Madam Chair, he's a lawyer. If he was making money, he would know that stuff in 2 minutes. That's how he's a lawyer. You're supposed to know that. You
Mr.
know
Murray?
that. He's a lawyer.
Madam Chair, Senator Deeds, first 18 pages of substitute deal with the securitization concept. The key lines I'll call your attention to, lines 15 through 19, give the commission discretion to either approve it or disapprove it. This is something you all have done in the state budget before. 31 states have done it for various utility costs. It is a way for very large one-time expenses. For example, Duke has done this in North and South Carolina for hurricane costs to spread that out over a long period of time. And unlike the utilities credit, which is single A for Dominion Energy Virginia, get a AAA bond rating. It is a lot of language, none of which matters if the commission says no. It's the first 18 pages of the bill. Why is there a lot of language? These are the strictures you need in order to sell something at a AAA bond rating when the underlying entity has a single A bond rating. But again, there's no public interest. There's no finger on the scale. Very first lines of the bill. If the commission wants to say no, they can. The second change, and this is pages 18 to 19, is the McClellan bill that you just reported 15-0. That's Senate Bill 1321. And then the only other change from what was heard in subcommittee is the line amendment you all just adopted on page 26, line 685, striking 300 million and inserting 350 million.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Dees.
I'd like to ask, Bill, where's the peer group language?
The peer group language has been in the introduced bill. It was in the subcommittee, and it was here. I can find it here. Just give me a sec. But that hasn't changed since the bill was introduced.
Senator Morrison, then Senator Eben.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill, does that many pages of verbiage, is that produced somewhere else in the code as well that's just been moved over here?
It's copying primarily what a number of states have done since North Carolina was one of the first states to it, have been copying the North Carolina language. And again, it's a lot of language to provide the assurances needed to get a AAA bond rating, none of which is relevant if the commission under its authority in lines 15 through 19 says, no, this is a bad idea,
So,
don't do it.
Madam Chair?
Senator Marsden.
So this is language for New York to...
This is language to let a utility that is single A rated with a triple B rated parent get a AAA bond rating so the customers pay the lowest possible interest costs for these once in 50-year spikes in fuel costs caused by, among other things, the Ukraine war.
Thank you.
Senator Eben, then Senator Saslaw.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wanted to ask perhaps Mr. Murray about the return on equity for the peer group embedded in this bill, which I take to mean the State Corporation Commission would be required to raise Dominion's return on equity to at least from 9.35% to at least 10.07% to match the peer group.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Senator, I don't know if I could respond with a little more color. First, the peer group's not a new concept. It's been in law since 2007. Second, what you just adopted was Senator McClellan's bill, moots for purposes of rate setting, not for purposes of refunds, but for purposes of rate setting the earnings collar of 70 basis points. So if that, in other words, we right now under current law we have a return on equity, as you said, of 9.35%, and if we earn between 9.35% and 10.05%, the commission's not able to lower rates because we're within what's called the earnings collar. Having adopted Senator McClellan's language, which again is recited word for word, starting on page 18 of this bill, you have mooted that earnings collar for purposes of setting rates. So with regard to base rates, what I would say is you have replaced the collar with a more straightforward average of the peer group. The second thing I'll say is our estimated costs for at least the first biennial case for the peer group is about $50 million a year. You all have just adopted a line amendment which in effect pays that $50 million. It's like buying points on a mortgage in that regard. I will note we're not asking for the high end of the peer group. What we're asking for is the average of the peer group against whom we compete to raise capital, to strengthen the grid, and to fulfill the various needs of the system and legislative mandates we operate under.
If I could follow up, Madam Chair. So are we not raising the return on equity from 9.35% to at least 10.07%? Is that not accurate?
You are, but what you've also done, though, is made a collar. Under current law, we're not over-earning for purposes of rate setting until we hit 10.05 in the base rate world. So what you've just done with Senator McClellan's language is rendered the collar solely an earnings sharing mechanism having nothing to do with rate setting. So you have traded the collar of 70 basis points for an increase in ROE of 72 basis points. So the net effect, at least with regard to base rates, is 2 basis points.
Senator Saslaw.
Without this bill, 1265, where would the rates be headed next spring, next fall?
Well, Senator, this spring, so under current law and under Senator McClellan's bill, we wouldn't file a rate case until next year. In March of next year, it would be decided at around the end of 2024, beginning of 2025. So there'd be no change in rates from that proceeding until early 2025. We are sitting, as you said in your testimony, Senator, on about $1.5 billion, a little more than that, in uncollected fuel costs. In the normal course of things, we would file a fuel factor in the late spring, which would typically Commission's got some discretion on time. It would typically take effect around July 1. It's on the order of about $17 per month. So,
If this doesn't pass,
correct.
and that's this year.
That's this year, in
That's
2023.
correct.
Okay. The other thing we would do under your bill, Senator, is we would be filing an almost immediate biennial review. So if the $350 million is not the right number, the commission can tell you all, because we'll have a full biennial review that takes place right after July 1 with the strictures set forth in Senator McClellan's bill you all just passed.
Senator Saslaw?
Who supports it?
Are there others in the audience who support the bill? Would you please come forward?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Jason Parker, Virginia State Building Construction Trades Council. We support the bill as for the reasons stated in subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in the audience in support of the bill? Those in the audience who are opposed to the bill?
There are no speakers on Zoom, Madam Chairman.
No speakers on Zoom? Senator Sproul?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, move to approval with this substitute, I believe.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported with the substitute. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Nays have the same right.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Ayes 12, noes 3. The bill will be reported with the substitute. Senator Saslaw, the gavel's back to you.
Okay.
That's it. Thanks so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm finished.
Thank you, Senator Sproul.
All right,
I'm finished.
Senator Sproul, thank you. All right, moving on down the line, the next would be Senate Bill 849. That's Senator Chase's bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. This is a bill you've not seen before with Senate Bill 849 as it pertains to smart meters. And I actually heard about this issue this November over Thanksgiving break when I got phone calls from constituents who said that their meter had been completely cut off their power. And I quickly said, "Did you pay your bill?" And they said, "Absolutely, I did." What I'm finding out is that there's a group called Virginians for Safe Technology based out of Fredericksburg who has done a lot of research on these smart meters. And I've got a handout. Hobie, thank you for passing that out. And I'd also like to, I probably need to adopt a substitute before I get going too far.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, there's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute to Senate Bill 849. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, bill's before us.
So,
Substitutes before us.
We passed, as you remember, the Grid Transformation Act. And as a result of that, it's supposed to be more efficient. It's supposed to allow Dominion Energy and other utility companies to quickly get the read electronically so they're not having to physically walk on people's properties. It's supposed to be in better technology. But in actuality, what I'm finding from constituents is they have a lot of health issues that are coming from these smart meters. And I have experts here who can talk about that, but I just want to give you a quick overview of the bill. There have been reported incidences of these smart meters catching on fire on people's homes, which is a great concern, to the point where this group was formed. Again, I want to call it's Virginians for Safe Technology, and there are all the experts here in the room today who are going to talk about this. But I'm very concerned about this one thing. There is no informed consent to get a smart meter. And in fact, on my own home, I didn't realize that they had already installed a smart meter on my home. My husband didn't consent. I didn't consent, and I'm finding out this is pervasive. As I sent out a press release earlier today, people saying, you know what, I didn't even know that a smart meter was attached on my home. So what is the issue here? Under the current law, the way it's situated, it is not an opt-in program, it's an opt-out program. So I've spoken to a number of members of Dominion. I said, you know what, if this is such a great program, let's put a commercial out there for Dominion saying what a wonderful service this provides and all the benefits, and people can opt in. They can call this number and they can opt into the program. But that's not the way it is right now. And in fact, I've even had customers who were bullied when they tried to go back to the analog meter because they did not want the current smart meter that was on there because of a number of reasons, included those that I listed. And they want those smart meters off of their house. They want to go back to the older technology, the electromechanical analog meter. And I've sat down with Dominion a number of times, and they said, no, you're going to have to opt out, or we're going to kill your bill. We're going to not support your bill. And I think that's wrong. I think that consumers should have the ability to consent when new devices, new technologies attached to their home. Look, I understand easements. When you buy your home, you can see as the consumer, you have implied consent because you understand.
Kind of wrap it up.
Yes, I will wrap it up. The whole point of this bill is that we need consumer consent on this bill. And I have a couple of experts that I would like, if they could, to quickly come up and speak on the behalf of this bill. I told them it would be quick. And if you'll just identify who you are and why you're so good at what you do, your expertise. Go ahead. I would just do it from heart. Just do it quickly as you can.
Okay. My name is Mary Bauer, and I'm a retired radio frequency engineer with over 2.5 decades of work experience with
Can you get closer to the mic?
Oh, closer. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. 2.5 decades of experience working with the Department of Defense. I am now the technical advisor for the consumer advocacy group, Virginians for Safe Technology. Our organization only supports this bill as amended by Senator Chase, with the essential addition of other non-wireless choices for an opt-out, including analog and Ethernet connections. If you look in your package on page 2, there's a consumer chart that shows 10 reasons why consumers don't like smart meters. And you see there's all check marks in the analog column and X's in all the other columns because there's no benefit to the consumer. This is purely about data collection and the new gold called green button CMD technology functionality. The radio frequency radiation from smart meters is inescapable, unavoidable, pervasive, and invasive. Smart meters violate our personal space with respect to physical safety, security, privacy, cybersecurity, and can adversely impact health. Smart meters are incendiary devices. With no ground and no surge protection for fire safety, basic electronics 101, exposing customers to high impact, high risk liabilities that are subrogated to them, to these devices, exposing customers to high impact, high risk liabilities subrogated to them due to these device design omissions. Yet customers are coerced, penalized, threatened with loss of power if they refuse to accept one of these electrically substandard AMI smart meters that are then recklessly installed under load and hot. That means they don't shut your power off before they install them. They make your sockets hot and weaken the integrity of the wall sockets attached to the house. These behaviors violate the Consumer Protection Act rights to safety, to be informed, to choice, and to seek remedy for unfair business practices. With all these risks and more, wouldn't you want a safer choice? Please support this bill as amended by Senator Chase. See our bill packet for additional information. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Chairman, right here.
Senator Bell.
You referenced the chart on page 2.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some footnotes on it, but I didn't see anything that backs up the lifespan. Where's the source of that?
That is from First Energy, Mr. Gaines, the financial CEO of that company, and he said it's a refresh just like a computer or a smartphone. It's a refresh because of the software, which these smart meters are driven by software. The hardware is incidental to the software. So you know how many times you have to get a new cell phone, a new laptop, a new iPad. It's all because of the electronic circuitry inside this phone or inside this smart meter is just like a computer. It's a circuit card.
We need to kind of move it along to
Yeah,
wrap it up.
I was just answering the question.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, everything is in the packet. My testimony is the last set of pages, last 3 pages. And right before that is a technical brief. It's very graphical and visual, and it shows you about the RFR exposures and the RF mesh. A lot of people don't realize that there is electrosmog that is draped over our houses. Each set of devices you use creates a bubble. Each set of houses or a house creates a bubble. There's a bubble around the neighborhood. That's on page 2 of the tech brief CAD model. And it shows what that RF mesh is, the RFR that we're exposed to.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next.
It's all on the package. Thank you.
Members of the committee, I'm Charlie Froman, Williamsburg resident and lobbyist for National Health Federation. And my handout also has that side-by-side chart on the back. And to put it simply, the half dozen Virginians disconnected last fall by Dominion do not want either the smart meter on the left column or the so-called opt-out meter in the middle column. Both of them suffer the same demerits. And those of us who want safe meters want the right column, the analog meter, which only can be offered if you pass SB 849. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Dr. Barbara Zedler, a Virginia physician and scientific researcher, and I'm here on behalf of the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance to clarify the evidence about the human health harms of radio frequency radiation, RFR, from wireless meters. The majority of published peer-reviewed scientific studies and the weight of the evidence leave no doubt that these harms are proven. Numerous court cases and government agencies' rulings since 1990 have acknowledged that both the inadequacy of the outdated FCC exposure safety limits for RF radiation and the serious health harms from particularly long-term low-level exposure. Unlike cell phones that you can turn off, these meters on your house run 24/7, 365 for years on end, and the homeowner cannot turn them off. The D.C. Court of Appeals ruled in August of 2021 that the FCC's RF radiation maximal permissible exposure safety limits were, quote, arbitrary and capricious and not science-based, after evaluating 11,000 pages of evidence of profound harmful effects and widespread sickness from wireless technology at exposure levels well below the FCC limits. Yep. In fact, the insurance industry has ranked the risk of radio frequency radiation from wireless devices as high and excludes coverage for damage in commercial policies, including those to cell phone manufacturers. This is an issue of control versus freedom. I urge you to vote yes to allowing homeowners to make a truly informed and voluntary decision about what to expose their bodies and the bodies of their families to inside their own homes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there opposition to the bill?
If anyone would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Murray with Dominion Energy. I was just looking back at our smart meter program. We did an event in Senator Deeds' district in 2009, 14 years ago, to kick off our pilot program in Charlottesville and Albemarle. We have been very thoughtfully deploying this program over the years. We've been in front of the Corporation Commission numerous times. The advantage of a smart meter, quite candidly, is we know when your power's out, you don't have to call 866-DOM-HELP. The smart meter transmits about 1% of the time. It has a radio frequency that is the rough equivalent of a device that many of us have in our pockets or otherwise on our persons. We would respectfully, and I'm not a physician, I'd be the first to say I would respectfully disagree based on what the industry's views would be. And as I said, it's been in front of regulators for 14 years that there are any health impacts. However, there is an opt-out provision. We have 2.7 million customers in Virginia and North Carolina. We deployed about 1.5 million smart meters over the last 14 years. That's a lagging number. It might be a little higher now. Less than 1% have opted out. We do have a protocol that's approved by the commission on how you go about opting out of smart meters. I will say it would be having a major policy change to opt in 14 years in the deployment of this program would be problematic. For those reasons, we respectfully oppose the bill.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Spruill.
Couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
On the smart meters for the consent, the customer, do you have to get their consent for them to put the smart meter on?
We got approval from the Corporation Commission. The customer can opt out. It's not an opt-in program. We don't get the customer's consent, but the customer can opt out. The regulator gave consent. Yes, sir.
No, my question is this. So you're saying you can put the smart meter on my thing without me even asking you if I don't want it. You're saying you can put it on there anyway, and then I got to go to the hoops to opt out?
You would need to opt out under current law, Senator Spruill.
But you can put it, Mr. Chairman, but I don't want it on there. So you're saying you can put it on there anyway, and I don't want it on there. That's what you're saying?
Tell them, you can call them up and tell them.
No, that's not what he's saying. My
Yes,
question
you can,
was-
if you don't want it, again, we didn't just start deploying these recently. We've been deploying them since 2009. If a customer is concerned and doesn't want smart meters, we send notification sort of when we're going to new geographic areas. We don't do them a house at a time, we do them a geographic area at a time. We do try to notify people that we're doing the installation. If people want to opt out, all you've got to do is call us. And then
This tells you when, hold on, Senator.
Yes, sir.
This, by having a smart meter, you know when they've lost their power.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that. Without all the questions, I'm saying at my house,
Yes, sir.
if you come to my house without asking me, so you're saying the smart meter can put on my house, I haven't asked you to do it. I don't want you to do it. So you're saying it's put on there anyway, and then I got to go to all these hoops out of it. I didn't ask you to put it on there. So you cannot say to me, can you? I'm saying, sir, I thank you so much, sir, but I don't want it. I don't want it on my. From the initial start, that's my question. From the initial start, the man pulls up, and from the initial start, I say, "What are you doing, sir?" And I say, "No, sir, I don't want that on my meter." Can I tell you that?
I would be, not, our protocol, if the homeowner has not notified us and we're going to install the smart meter and the line workers or the other technicians were told, I don't want this on there, they would drive away and we would regroup at that point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On our protocol.
Okay, you finished?
Yes, sir.
All right, next.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Blair with Climate Cabinet Action. Smart meters do play a critical role in upgrading and modernizing our grid, and I would echo the comments made by Dominion. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, as Blair said, Kim Jermaine with Advanced Energy United, as Blair said, smart meters are essential to ensuring a flexible and reliable grid, and we oppose the legislation.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, John Morris, Appalachian Power. We also oppose the legislation and would note to the committee that we're at about 100% implementation of smart meters in our service territory. That service and convenience is very much appreciated by the customers. So again, we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Stephanie Kane with Old Dominion Electric Cooperative. We respectfully oppose this bill. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could we have folks in the room who are here to support the bill just to stand and show support
All right,
of
those
the
who
bill?
support the bill, please stand. Okay. Thank you. All right, the bill's before us. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second to pass by indefinitely Senate Bill 849. All those in favor of passing by indefinitely, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay.
Thank you.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
The bill is passed by indefinitely. All right. Senator Hackworth, you were here first, and then Senator McPike will be next, followed by Senator Reeves.
Doesn't Dominion Energy pocket? Doesn't they pocket?
Sir?
What did he say?
Like folks with smart energy. You gotta be in their pocket because you're not listening. I used to work for them and put in thousands of these meters. These things is dangerous. Don't touch me, man. Don't touch me, though. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Wait, Kirk.
Oh, well.
Mr. Chairman, I move to move the substitute, please.
All right. Okay, there's a motion and a
Make-
second to adopt the substitute to Senate Bill 1121. All those in favor, say aye. Okay. Substitutes before us.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We have worked with our stakeholders, or the stakeholders in this, and I think we have peace in the valley. There's peace in the valley here, so peace of mind maybe. But, so Senate Bill 1121 deals with the coal mine methane. And so this substitute, the purpose of this substitute is to recognize the environmental and economic development benefits of the capture and use of coal mine methane, and have the Department of Energy evaluate policy options for this resource and then report back so we can consider those at a later date. The bill also directs the department to get input from the stakeholders, including producers, businesses, environmental groups during that evaluation. So in essence, that's what this does, Mr. Chairman, is it is to look at the benefits of the coal mine methane and evaluate that, and then report back by November 15, 2023.
Okay, further explanation. Are there any questions in the paper?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. If currently renewable energy, which could be part of offsets for carbon efficiency, could be solar, wind, bio, et cetera, this would allow methane, which could be a byproduct of other types of exploration, oil wells, et cetera, that would then count as an offset if we make this renewable. Is that correct?
Well, this does not make that a renewable. What all this does is this just looks at evaluating the economic benefits of the capture and use of the coal mine methane for that, and then report back so we can consider those. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm looking at the other bill.
Yeah, our original one did.
1125. Gotcha.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I apologize.
That's all right. That. We've got.
Any other questions in the paper? All right, those in the audience in support of the bill.
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Nolan with McGuire Woods on behalf of CNX Resources, a natural gas producer in Southwest Virginia. We are currently doing some of this activity of capturing what's called coal mine methane. Again, this is not fracked gas. This is methane that would otherwise be emitted into the atmosphere from mining activity. And we think that this is a resource that should be better utilized and really provide a catalyst for economic development in Southwest Virginia. So we support the evaluation and would hope you would support the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, my name is Peter Anderson. I work with Appalachian Voices. While we had concern, Peter Anderson with Appalachian Voices. While we had concerns about the bill as filed, we've worked with the patron along with other stakeholders, and the fact is, methane escaping straight from a mine into the atmosphere is a real problem that needs to be addressed, and we appreciate the patron's interest in addressing that problem. We think we need to work out the details of the solutions, and so at this time, we're neutral on the bill, no opposition from us.
Okay, is there opposition to 1121?
Those who would like to speak in opposition to this bill on Zoom, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion and a second to report substitute to Senate Bill 1121. All those in favor vote aye.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, nays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Senator Pike, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 1040 is a bill that comes to me from actually a constituent. A constituent called me earlier this year and said, hey, my employer is using my 4 digits of my Social Security number. What can we do about it? And I checked the code and checked with legislative services, and to my surprise, there actually is nothing that the employer could do. As you know, in the day of data privacy now, folks, if you just have a segment of your Social Security number, they can piece together, based on other information, your full Social Security number. Now, as you recall, We did away with this with our DMV driver's license probably 15 or 20 years ago. All the federal acts required the limitation of government use of social security numbers. They didn't actually get into the employers. And so literally, as an employer using right out with your name, a partial of your social security number that someone could piece together, data that could be stolen and used for fraud purposes. And it just seems like an entirely poor stance to have these days, to have actually your partial. And so that's where this bill comes from, Mr. Chairman. It's just, I think it's outdated. It shouldn't be a part of any sort of identification anymore. Most employers do the right thing. They do is substitute employee identification number, which is the best practice. But I didn't think this was even a thing years and years after we've dealt with it at a state level. But that is the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, questions in the paper? All right. Anyone in the audience supporting the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
In opposition?
There are no speakers on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second to report Senate Bill 1040. All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ayes 15-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Reed, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 1336, which this committee heard in 2019, passed out 13-0 in the Senate, 40-0, but it has to do with short-term, limited duration medical plans. Mr. Chairman, this bill just means that a health benefit plan that has an expiration date less than 12 months, it's kind of to fill the gap. I can go through the details of it, but again, Mr. Chairman, this committee has heard this bill and passed it out unanimously. It caught a fever in the House back in 19 because it wound up going to the governor's desk and he wound up vetoing, but it still has the, this committee put a, if you remember, Mr. Chairman, this committee put a disclosure on all policies on this bill that says this coverage is not required to comply with certain federal marketing requirements. Health insurance, principally those contained in the Affordable Care Act. To be sure, check your policy. Kind of goes through as a disclosure so people understand what they're buying.
Okay. Questions in the paper? All right. Those in the audience supporting the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask him a question?
Oh, okay.
I beg your pardon. You said these were 12 months, but this is extending it to 36 months?
It has the option to do an extended rider with them that it can go up to that amount, but typically they're 12 months or less. It's really a short-term bridge gap for people who leave a job, they're in between, it's not time to roll in to the Affordable Care Act.
Any opposition in the audience?
There are no speakers on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon me.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Freddie Mejia with the Commonwealth Institute, and we oppose the bill. We're concerned with deregulating health plans that offer very limited consumer protections, are not required to include things like maternity care, behavioral health, and at a time that we're investing as a state very heavily in these services, offering plans that do not have those type of coverage is really concerning to us. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Sarah Cariano with the Virginia Poverty Law Center. I just want to point out that in 2020, there was actually a bill that came before you that was to limit these to 3 months, and the compromise that came out, which is the code language now, is 2 6-month terms. So the 12 months that's in code now was a compromise that passed in 2020. As the patron himself said, these are plans that are intended for short coverage gaps. I don't think 3 years is a short coverage gap. And I just want to point out that our market in Virginia for the individual market has never been stronger. We just had 347,000 people enroll, which is the largest enrollment we've had in individual coverage since Medicaid expansion. this committee has gone through, we've gone through reinsurance, we've done multiple reports on market stabilization. Not one of them has recommended reinvesting in these more limited coverage plans, but reinvesting in making sure we're finding people who are eligible for the good options we have, which are over half of uninsured adults could qualify for Medicaid expansion based on their income, and 3/4 of uninsured children could be enrolled in Medicaid or CHIP based on their income. So we oppose these. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to one of the comments the gentleman made? Mr. Chairman, this isn't designed to have everything in the kitchen sink in it. It's designed for people can kind of do a la carte of what they really need for insurance coverages till they can get what they need. If you're a single male and you're in your late 20s, the probabilities that you're going to need maternity care are pretty slim. So it's a bridge gap. It's not designed to be a permanent thing. Kind of help those folks that can get that insurance till they get on Affordable Care Act.
All right, bill before us.
Mr. Chairman, the thing about,
Senator Dees.
the thing about a bill like this is you take people out of the pool, you drive up the cost for everybody else. I move we PBI the bill.
Second. All right, there's a motion and a second, pass by indefinitely, Senate Bill 1336. All those in favor, vote aye.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Senator Boyster, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got two bills before the committee. The first is SB 1101. It's the Paid Family and Medical Leave Program. I have an amendment the clerk should have at the request of the Office of the Executive Secretary, the Supreme Court.
All right, there's a motion. Second. Do I hear a second? Second. To adopt the amendment to Senate Bill 1101. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment was to delete language regarding an action to recover damages or equitable relief on behalf of the employees or other employees similarly situated. So now that we've taken care of that. This is a bill you've heard before. Countless families have faced a medical crisis or a welcome child. And for people who are fortunate enough to work for an employer who provides paid family and medical leave benefits, or who have above average bank accounts and can participate in the federal FMLA unpaid leave program, these are manageable crises for those families. But for most Virginians, I believe over 50% of Virginians, these events force a cruel choice. Whether to nurse a loved one or for oneself through a medical crisis or the end of life, or to heal from a childbirth and bond with a new baby, or to pay your bills, basics like rent and food, utilities, medical care, transportation. You understand what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be this way. Very many other states have established comprehensive paid family and medical leave programs. And just last year, I served on an early childhood fellow with NCSL. And we were focusing specifically on practices for best practices for healthy outcomes. Paid family medical leave was at the top of that list.
Helpful is for you to explain who pays and how that works.
Yes, sir. So this would set up a self-funding insurance program through the Commonwealth, where the employer and the employees would each pay a small deductible each month. Something like if you make $60,000, the estimate is about the cost of a cup of coffee at Starbucks, like $4 per paycheck. If you have a qualifying event and you can't just say, I feel sick today, I'm not going to work, you would have to have documentation and it would have to be approved through your HR. If you have a qualifying event, then your insurance would kick in and pay you 80% of your income.
Who would handle the insurance?
VEC.
The insurance company?
VEC.
Virginia Employment Commission.
Yes, sir.
And if they run short of funds, then they could increase the rate to both.
That is correct. However, in other states where this has been implemented, they actually are finding that they have taken more than they needed and are actually lowering rates because when we have wide adoption, we are seeing a really successful program. I have some folks here to talk to me.
Mr. Chairman,
First, questions of the patron.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Bell.
question. I looked in here to see if, and I might have missed it, so please let me know if I did. Is there any exclusion for small businesses? Because I'm concerned about the cost for businesses with, say, 5 employees. 10, you're shaking your head no, so there's no exclusion for them?
Mr. Chair, Senator Bell, this is intended to be a universal program. There are ways of allowing in some states, the employee bears the entire cost, so it would be the $8 a month payment. And I certainly would be open to consideration if that would be the will of the body.
Do you have a provision in there that you have to work X amount of hours a week?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
And I have some folks who are experts in this policy who could answer
Mr. Chairman, can I follow?
specific questions.
Mr. Chairman, the other question I would have, can an employee opt out? Because you just mentioned if the employee, the cost could be all on the employee perhaps, but I mean, can an employee opt in or opt out, or they have to do this?
Mr. Chair, Senator Bell, just like unemployment insurance, this is intended to cover everyone, and it would not be an opt-in, opt-out program.
All right. Those in support of the bill?
One speaker online has already raised their hand. If anyone else would like to speak in support of this bill, please do so now.
You have somebody here.
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Freddie Mejia with the Commonwealth Institute. We support the bill. We know that this type of program would really benefit low-income, low-wage workers, and specifically women of color. So we support the bill. Thank you.
Chairperson, members of the committee, Jace Hatcher with the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, and we support this bill.
Good afternoon, Kayla Mock with United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 400, representing over 13,000 workers here in Virginia. We strongly support this bill.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Doris Kraus Mays, Virginia AFL-CIO, and we support the bill.
All right. Opposition to the bill? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we have.
In support of the bill?
Yes,
All
we
right,
have speakers in support of the bill.
All right, on Zoom?
Yes.
Try to limit it between 30 and 45 seconds.
Christina Hagan, please unmute and begin your testimony now.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Christina Hagan, and I am the State Director for Family Friendly Virginia. We advocate for economic policies that lift Virginia women and families, and I want to express our full support for Senator Boysko's SB 1101. Back in 2021, you may recall the General Assembly funded an actuarial study on this very concept, which found that Virginia workers are currently covered by a patchwork of federal programs and firm-based paid leave programs. The Federal Family Medical Leave Act, which actually turns 30 this year, has offered eligible workers up to 12 weeks of job-protected unpaid leave since 1994. However, eligibility limit the protection to approximately 56% of the workforce. And although there is no kind of Virginia-specific data on FMLA and private coverage is not available, private employers have increasingly offered short-term disability and paid family leave benefits to their workers. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, National Compensation Survey, private employers nationwide offering short-term disability access rose from 37%.
Rebecca Geller, please unmute and begin your testimony now.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me speak. My name is Rebecca Geller, and I am the president of the Geller Law Group. It is a law firm that has 33 employees that I founded, and we represent several thousand small businesses throughout Virginia. I'm speaking in support of this bill. I have encountered so many times where I need something like this for my employees. The only option available to me is short-term disability insurance, which caps out at 60% and does not cover many times. I've had many employees who've had to take time off to care for ailing and dying parents, and there's nothing I can do other than either paying extra vacation time or they have to untake unpaid leave. This is something that businesses need, and small business owners particularly really need it because we are hit harder than the bigger businesses would be hit by it. Many employees find themselves in difficult times, whether it's caring for a new baby or a parent who's ailing. And this is something that really, when
Chris Ives, please unmute and provide your testimony now.
Good
afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Krista Ives, and I live in the 85th District of Virginia Beach. I'm here today in support of Senator Boysko's Comprehensive Paid Leave for All Bill SB 1101. My daughter, Gabrielle Aldea, was born with Hardikar syndrome, a rare syndrome that affects the entire midline of a person's body. When Gabby was born, she was so sick she was unable to care for herself, and I was unable to work. We were fortunate enough to have a supportive family to support our basic needs, and as Gabby grew stronger, I rejoined the workforce, but without paid leave. I had to pick and choose which appointments and illnesses weren't using up my PTO, which was limited. In December 2020, the worst happened, and Gabby passed away. I was lucky enough to take some time off work and still have a job to return to, but that time off was largely unpaid.
All right.
It is nowhere near as long as I needed, and I'll never get back the time with my only child.
There's one more speaker. Marsha Tetterton, please unmute and provide your testimony now.
Hi, I'm Marcy Tetterton with the Virginia Association for Home Care and Hospice. While we appreciate what the senator's bill does, we're very concerned of its impact on Medicaid personal care agencies and providers. The rates are abysmally low, and there's no budget amendment to help offset the cost of yet another unfunded mandate. Thank you.
That completes the speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Opposition. Anyone in the audience opposed to the bill? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Nicole Brenner with Reed Smith on behalf of the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, speaking in opposition. The paid leave program from last year just went into effect. There's a private sector program that just started. We would ask you to oppose the bill on that basis. Thank you.
Okay.
One speaker has raised his hand to speak in opposition. If anyone else would like to do so, please do that now. Robert Melvin, please unmute and provide your testimony.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Robert Melvin with the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. We're opposed to this proposed mandate. As y'all know, our industry took a real hit during COVID, and we appreciate the concerns that have been raised by Senator Bell on this matter. We think that there are many of our smaller operators that are struggling right now, and this certainly isn't something to consider. And we've been fully supportive of the measure that was passed last year that provided a voluntary approach to this. Thank you.
That completes the speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Bills before us.
Move the report, Mr. Chairman, and we refer to finance.
The motion is to report.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Newman.
I don't know if it matters, but I think that Senator Boysko has done what she often does, and that is brought through a truly pure bill. The problem with it is it's a pure bill. And if you are an employer out there that has 4 or 5 employees, 2 employees, 3 employees, you have to do this. And if they leave for 12 weeks, the other item is that under the bill we passed before, we do have available to us the option of a bill. The other concern I have is that this bill is, I agree with Senator Boysko as being very aspirational, but at 80%, that's not what a lot of other ERISA companies would do. They would do this at 60%, as you know, to make sure that people really, they need to use it and it's not a close call. The other is it just has no opt-out. So I appreciate the fact that it's very aspirational, but I just can't support it, and I think it would be very injurious to especially small businesses.
I have a problem not accepting businesses under 25, to be honest with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Boysko, I assume that the costs of operating the program are also covered by the contributions of...
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair and Senator Marsden, it is a fully self-funding program. In fact, in other states where this has been implemented recently, they've ended up getting more money back. And I'll just point out again, and PolitiFact confirmed this last year, that we're the only industrialized country in the world that does not have a formal program for paid family medical leave. So other states have been doing this.
We're also the only industrialized country in the world that will give a gun to anyone if they fall
Well, you know how I feel about that too. So there's something that we can do about it, but if you all would be willing to move this forward, I'm open to some amendments. If you'd move this on to the Finance Committee, I'd be willing to work with folks to try to perfect this in a way that would work in Virginia.
Mr. Chairman, you have a motion and second on the floor to approve the bill. So it's talking stuff after fact, that's fine, but you have a motion on the floor to approve the bill and to send to finance. And that was the motion.
Well, you can still speak to the motion or the bill. All right, the bill is before us. The motion is to report and refer to finance with the amendments. Clerk, call the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. The second bill that I have is SB 1136. We have passed a very similar bill like this through the entire Senate last year. This adds a new section to Virginia's Labor and Employment Code, joining 19 other states that have passed bipartisan legislation, and it prohibits an employer from seeking a salary history from a prospective employee. We passed the Virginia Equal Pay Act in 1974. It requires that employers pay their employees equal pay for equal work, and it already allows for lawsuits against an employer. But it is clear, because we still are not paying people on parity, that we have more work to do. Women typically in Virginia make 80 cents to the dollar for men. The national average is 82 cents. Black women in Virginia typically make 60 cents for every dollar paid to white men. National figure is 63%. Latina women typically make 54 cents for every dollar paid to white men. That national figure is 55. And so the consequences of the wage gap for these individuals is very substantial. On the average, women employed full-time in the United States lose a combined total of nearly $930 billion every year due to the wage gap. And these lost wages mean that women and their families have less money to spend and buy stuff, pay their own bills, and our economy, our businesses, and women and their families suffer. So we have seen that legislation like mine has made a significant difference in closing the wage gap. And 19 other states, including Alabama and Nebraska, in Massachusetts, the Chamber of Commerce has gotten behind their efforts. And I actually have a big list of all the different salary bands that have been done throughout the country in cities and localities, if you're interested. Compliance with the bill is pretty easy. And again, you all voted for this last year. All you do is you do not ask for the wage salary history unless the employee voluntarily provides it. And employers must also provide a job application to the person, and they can discuss a salary range. There's no definite amount that they have to use, but it should be in good faith. I have been working with the National Women's Law Center on this bill for a number of years, and also one of the biggest companies in the country, Salesforce, is supporting this bill as well, and have been working with them also on this. And I'm happy to answer questions. This is something that we passed last year that's pretty similar. And did we need to do something?
Mr. Chair, Senator Boyce-Guy, there's just correct a drafting error on line 34.
Okay.
It says after whether the strike range and insert wage, so it reads whether the wage or salary range.
So moved. Second. All right, you've heard the motion. All those in favor of adopting the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All right. Amendment's adopted.
And I believe I have someone here to speak, but
Is there anyone here in support of the bill?
Anyone on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand.
Anyone here in opposition to the bill? All right.
There's one speaker on Zoom,
Motion
Mr. Chairman.
and a second to report
right.
Senate Bill 1136. All those in favor, vote aye.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee.
Okay, Senator Favola?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I draw your attention to Senate Bill 927, and I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
There's been a motion and a second to adopt the substitute to 927. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Okay.
Substitutes before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I basically have, we've rewritten the bill and turned it into a Section 1 bill. We direct the Bureau of Insurance to convene a group of stakeholders so they can more completely examine the claims payment process to providers, both hospitals and doctors. There seems to be a lack of understanding on how claims are reviewed, how they're processed, the documentation that might be needed, and if a claim is in dispute, how is that resolution worked out? So this is the bill, and we are expecting recommendations from this committee, and we would like a report no later than December 1st, 2023. It would come to you all, the House Committee the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor, and then the House Committee on Welfare, Health and Institutions. That's my bill.
Any questions of the paper? Anyone in the audience in support?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Julie Dime with the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association. We very much appreciate the Senator bringing forward this bill. Also want to recognize our stakeholders, other stakeholders that were participated with the BOI, as well as our friends from the carriers. We really appreciate all the collaboration that we look forward to doing some more. Thank you.
All right. Anyone in opposition to the bill?
Anyone would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers, Mr. Chairman.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report as with the substitute Senate Bill 927. All those in favor vote aye.
Ayes 15, no zero.
15-0, bill is approved.
Thank you.
Senator Donovan. All right, well, I'm just going down. Senator D. He's called. What's 1301 by as well? That's 1311. Okay. There's a motion, well, without objection, apply for the day. All right. Senator, please. Senator Edwards, yes. 1338.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. 1338 is, I want to move to pass the bill by indefinitely with a letter to the Joint Commission on Healthcare to study the impact of a lawsuit in Rutledge's case on ERISA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. This bill has to do with pharmaceutical benefit managers and whether or not the ERISA, we could do it pursuant to ERISA.
All right, the motion is to pass, and second is to pass by indefinitely
The Joint Commission on Healthcare. Senator Barker is here. Can you write a letter to Senator Barker? You just give it to me, I'll give it to him. Joint Commission on Healthcare.
All right, the letter to the Joint Commission on Healthcare. All those in favor, vote aye.
Ayes 15, no zero.
All right, Senator Servo, you have 1397, 1399 for the insurance bills, and then get your
What's he need to do it?
Mr. Chairman, I think 1482 is probably the easiest. You want to knock that out? Maybe somebody will come in the meantime.
All right, go ahead with 1482.
Okay, 1482 is basically designed to put us in a position to resolve vacancies with the State Corporation Commission. Under the Constitution, the SCC is authorized to have 5 seats. We currently have only 3 right now, and under the code, they're elected. They're elected only in even years. We have 1 seat right now that has 5 years left on its term. We have another seat, Judge Yogman's seat, which has 1 year left. She's announced her retirement. Basically, what this does is it deletes Judge Yogman's seat and then creates a new seat, a 4th seat, which will be the 3rd seat, with a 6-year term. So that we'll have 1 seat with a 5-year term and 1 seat with a 6-year term, which will hopefully put us in a position to be able to get 2 people put on the SCC by the end of this session. That's basically what this legislation does. There's a cognate in this. I think Delegate Byron's got the same thing on the other side.
All right. Any questions in the paper? All right. Any audience? Any words support?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
All right. In the audience, anyone in opposition?
If anyone would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers, Mr. Chairman.
All right. There's a motion and second to report Senate Bill 1482. All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Donovan's here if you want to take her up now and come back to me. I got to be here anyway. Senator Donovan is here. If you want to take her, I got to be here anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have Senator Sproul's vote up here, maybe. I don't know. Okay, all right. Mr. Chairman, this is Senate Bill 1189, and it is, there does need to be an amendment to it on the date. It should say July 1, 2023. It says 21. This is a bill that's been before the Senate a few times. It passed out of the Senate 40-0 last year, and it is about disability insurance and the amount of weeks that are given for maternity leave on disability insurance. About 42% of Virginians have access to disability insurance through their employers. About half of them pay out of pocket themselves. And Mr. Chairman, the members of the committee, 12 weeks is best practices, and what we're getting in what the state gives, in what the FLMA, in the insurance product that you had last time gives, and women really need to be paid for those 12 weeks, especially when they're paying into a disability plan. So this is passed in 2019, and about half of the disability insurance plans have been following that pathway. 2 of them specific, Anthem and Guardian, and they've not increased their premiums any in the course of that time, but many of the others have taken an interpretation because of confusion in the bill originally that it would only allow for 6 to 8 weeks for maternity leave, and then doctors would then need to write another reason for the additional 4 to 6 weeks for a patient to be out, instead of just saying for maternity leave, 12 weeks is the amount that you're going to have paid leave. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, this bill is before you again. I have been working to have a better outcome in the House this year. You're going to hear arguments against, and I believe I do have a speaker on Zoom in favor that has much more technological information about this and details than I have.
All right, first, any members of the committee? Okay.
So moved.
All right. There's a motion.
Second.
Second, yes. And a second to adopt the amendments. All those in favor of adopting them, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Newman.
Senator Donovan, if you worked out an agreement with the employee that they would work for 8 weeks and then they would work from home for a few weeks, Is that allowed under your bill?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Senator Newman, this affects the employers zero. So the employers might have a policy that says you can have 12 weeks. But the point is, for those that are purchasing disability insurance, what's happening now is for disability, the first week you don't get paid. Then you get paid for up to 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and women are choosing, and this is causing women to leave the workforce. But it does not affect businesses. It just affects the new products. This is it not even retroactive to existing disability products, but new products would allow for 12 weeks. But businesses could have obviously a different policy.
Mr. Chairman, last question. So, Senator Donovan, if an employer has a choice between offering nothing or they want to have a 6 weeks, if that's what they wanted a policy like that, could the providers provide them the policy they want?
Mr. Chairman, according to this bill, it would be that 12 weeks would have to be provided in a new insurance plan. So I can look at that and see.
Mr. Chairman, the question is do you have to have mandated an offer of 12 weeks by the companies, but they can offer other things to employers that want it? That's the question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So you just have to have a product that does this?
Yes, you have to be able to offer that, yes. And that the doctor doesn't have to say, oh, there's a confounding variable here that this woman needs to be out 4 to 6 more weeks. Maternity leave alone is sufficient. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, and Senator Newman, by the way, the disability plans are saying they already do this. They just require that additional diagnosis, but they're already paying for 12 weeks. It just doesn't make sense the way we're doing it. And a lot of women are missing out because their doctors don't say, oh, yes, there's an additional need.
The bill is amended, is before us. In the audience, opposition or support?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
All right. Opposition?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Patrick Cushing on behalf of the American Council of Life Insurers. We oppose the bill. We've had spirited conversations with Senator Donovan over the past several years on this. We are in an agree to disagree on some of the mechanics, but the agree portion of this is, we support 12 weeks of paid leave. What I want to distinguish between what I think this bill is doing versus what we believe the short-term disability products are for. These are disability products. Not every short-term disability plan covers maternity. And for those that do cover maternity, as Senator Donovan mentioned, they have 6 to 8 weeks. The law was amended a couple of years ago to ensure that women could get a minimum of 12 weeks if they come back and they get a determination from their doctor that they could have a continuing disability. And this is a physical or mental inability to return to regular work. The amendment that you all adopted is a date that applies to policies moving forward. And the reason for that is we have to go through a new underwriting process. I can't speak to any specifics as to whether this is going to definitively drive up the cost of short-term disability products for medium and small employers who are the market for short-term disability. Large companies like the Amazons, Googles, they self-insure. A lot of women have 0 weeks of paid leave. We're running right in the middle for those companies that need to have an insurance product to cover that period of leave. To make this a 12-week mandate, no matter what, and that's what this bill does, is 12 weeks, whether the mother wants it or not, which is great. Every mother should want it and will want it, but we have to go back and we have to underwrite for 12 weeks versus underwriting for a determination on a disability. This change would make Virginia the first state in the country to mandate a minimum of 12 weeks under a short-term disability product. Last year, the General Assembly passed a bill that we worked on with Senator Favola and Delegate Byron that would create a new class of insurance called family leave. There are several companies that have applied to sell these products in Virginia, and the intent there was to help fill the gap beyond short-term disability and even for new parents that are adoptive and for fathers to provide true family leave. We think that's an excellent solution and helps fit the market. We expect to see those products maybe later this year. So with that, we appreciate the conversations with the patron, understand this is a passionate issue, and want to see every mother covered with paid leave, but unfortunately, we have to oppose the bill today.
Mr. Chairman, briefly, Patrick, sorry. Patrick, is your understanding that the bill allows you to offer a 6 weeks or an 8 week in addition to a 12-week?
The bill or the law today?
The bill that we have before us.
The bill would mandate 12 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, that's not quite the question. Can
Okay.
you offer both? In other words, must you offer 12, but can you offer both? 6 weeks or 8 weeks or
No.
is it only 12 weeks?
Only
available?
12 weeks. We cannot offer the bill, let me read this language again. Shall, I'm reading on lines 15, halfway through, disability arising out of childbirth shall, notwithstanding a disability, determination, or medical necessity requirement, provide for 12 weeks of income protection for the 12 weeks immediately following childbirth. So I read that as it is a one-size-fits-all. It is 12 weeks.
Mr. Chairman. Again, if you look at the bill and you see where the language is changed, the shall has always been there. And this is income protection. This is that disability determination required to provide for 12 weeks. So yes, the product is underwritten for 12 weeks, but a business can have a policy that is different than that.
Okay. You heard the bill is before us. Is there a motion? All right, motion to report, is there a second? Motion and a second to report. All those in favor of reporting, did we amend this?
Yes, sir.
As amended. Senate Bill 1189, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Ayes 9, no 6, the bill is supported.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Senator Serville, back to you. We've done 1482. Next on my chart here.
Let's do it, 13.
1266.
That's probably the longest of the four, so I would say 1399 is probably the shortest. So 1399 and 97 are related to each other. Both of these bills are recommendations from the HIRC, the Health Insurance Reform Commission. They both have to do with the Essential Health Benefits Benchmark Plan. And is there an amendment to 13, substitute on 99? Yeah. I need a copy of it too. I'll second the motion. Mr. Chairman, substitute's been moved and seconded.
Substitute. Before us. All those in favor of adopting the substitute, say aye. Aye. Opposed, aye. Substitute is before us, 1399.
So basically what both of these bills have to do with is the essential health benefit plan that we provide under the state healthcare exchange. And over the last couple years, we have mandated a couple new benefits that have not been that are not included in the current essential benefit plan. And in order for us to adopt the new essential health benefit plan, there's a whole bunch of hoops we have to jump through to make the federal government happy. The SCC Bureau of Insurance has started the process of jumping through those hoops by hiring an actuary and sort of teeing it up for us, but one of the things we have to do is adopt Senate Bill 1399 to create the legal requirement that the essential health benefit plan has the two new benefits in the plan. And so that we can promulgate a new essential health benefit as of 2025. I think I'm stating this right. The chairman of the HERC is nodding his head. So that's what the first bill does. The second bill creates a whole new process for future modifying the essential health benefit plan in the future. But that's when this one does. So this one sort of validates where we are right now and sort of sets up the state, the SCC, to promulgate a new essential health benefit plan consistent with the laws we've already passed for 2025. That's what it does. And again, as a recommendation of the HERC plan, there's a cognate in the House coming over.
All right. All right, you've heard 1399. All right, is there questions of the patron?
If you want to know the two new benefits, I can explain them.
Wait, and the audience now supported the bill?
Those on Zoom would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Can I? Mr. Chairman, Doug Gray on behalf of the Virginia Association of Health Plans. We support this bill. What this is about is trying to avoid defrayal when you add something to the essential health benefit. Defrayal means the federal government has to be paid if you add something over and above the essential health benefit. And that's a big deal for any mandate that gets added to the essential health benefit. So these two things have already been done, applied to the large group plan, but have not been applied to individual and small group. They will be now, and you won't have to defray because you made it part of the new essential health benefit. So that's why this process is important, and we support doing this, and we'll support the next bill too.
All right, any other questions of the patron?
I would also note it has an emergency clause.
It what?
It has an emergency clause.
Okay, wait, is there opposition? All right, there's not. All right. Okay, there's a motion to, and a second to report as a substitute, with the substitute Senate Bill 1399. All those in favor vote aye.
That's 15-0.
All right, it's reported.
Thanks. So we do 1397 next, and I have a substitute on that.
Okay. There.
And Tom, I need that one too.
Is there a substitute?
Yes.
Yeah, motion to adopt a substitute and a second. All those in favor say aye. Substitutes before us.
Okay, so this one evolves out of some discussions that we had on the HERC about creating a process going forward to adopt an essential health benefit plan, so that we're on kind of a regular schedule to do this every 5 years. Right now, we have no process. And basically what happened is we all kind of looking at each other at the HERC one day trying to figure out what we ought to do about a process. And NCSL put me in touch with the National Health Law Program, who gave me a 25-page report on best practices. And I took the best practices, put it into a bill. We discussed it at the HERC the day before session began, and that was the bill that got introduced. Since it's been introduced, there's been some other suggestions that have been made which are incorporated in the substitute. But basically, the idea is here that on this 5-year time frame, about 1/3 of the cicada cycle, I guess, we have to have a work holder group get together to talk about whether or not we need to make any changes in our essential health benefit plan. The Bureau of Insurance puts that together. Then the Bureau of Insurance makes some estimates based on that. They make a recommendation as to whether any changes ought to be made to the plan. Then they have to do an actuarial analysis of that. And then we have to have a whole bunch of public hearings to allow the public to say whether or not we need to add benefits or subtract benefits. And we have to have an official public comment process. The feds require this. And then I think the bill has to go to the HERC at some point, and then the General Assembly has to eventually adopt legislation validating all that public process resulting in the plan. That's basically what this does. It creates a framework, so which you guys will not see again until, what, 2030 maybe? Something like that, I think. 2030, Tom? Yeah.
Start in 2025, and the bill will come in 2026.
Yeah, okay. 2026, you'll get a chance to see the fruits of this for the first time, and then maybe in 2031, if any of us are still here. But that's basically what this does. And the bill you just passed happened because we didn't have a process, and so we had to do this emergency stuff last minute to catch up with something we had forgotten was going on.
Okay. Any questions of the patron by committee members? All right. Speaking in support of the bill, Doug?
Mr. Chairman, Doug Gray on behalf of the Virginia Association of Health Plans. So the practical impact for you all as committee members is you're going to kind of have a waiting room when you pass a new mandate. You'll apply it to large group, and then it'll kind of get in line to the next time this goes. I mean, that's kind of practically what this actually means, I at least from the way I read it. So it's, there's obviously exceptions to that. There's always exceptions because it's legislation. But we support this process. We are the one of the few states where the Bureau of Insurance is not in the executive. And so in those states, the governor decides. Not in the executive branch. In those states, the governor decides. So one reason this is challenging for us and was challenging for CMS to sign off on was that we have a state corporation commission. And so we really want the legislature, or typically we have in the past, to be able to have its say. And that's a little different than the other states.
All right. Is there any opposition? There is not. Okay. Bills of, Senator Morrison?
Yeah, question. When you go into the waiting room, do you get a number, or does it become discretionary as to which ones they take up and in what order?
Mr. Chairman, it depends on how you pass the bill. You could say this is now in line for the next time, or you could not say that and then have it taken up during that process. The fundamental discussion we had, Mr. Chairman, about the process when you're going to create a new EHB is whether you could add something that had not been through the process that HERC had been analyzed and looked at and had some actuarial work done. And that probably will be difficult to just slip something in at the end. You're going to need to probably be close to the waiting room to get in theory. But obviously there's flexibility. It's legislation.
Mr. Chairman, line management is always a problem.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Chairman, I would just note that I think at our last HERC meeting, we had something like 27 bills in the waiting room. I think. Is that right?
All right.
Oh, 20?
Okay, bills before us.
Second.
Motion and a second to report Senate Bill 1397 as a substitute. All those in favor vote aye, those opposed nay.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 1266. All right, these ones get a little bit more.
Wait, which bill?
1266. It's on the energy list, I think.
$12.66. That's why I said 56. Okay. All right.
Okay, this one has to do with shared solar. So you all might recall that in 2020, we passed legislation involving or authorizing the SCC to adopt a shared solar plan for a Phase 2 utility. We specifically carved out Phase 1 APCO, and I have a separate bill on that, Mr. Chairman, which is going back to the Energy Subcommittee for Wednesday. And that authorized a whole new program for APCO. That's not part of this. This has to do with Dominion territory. And basically, just so you understand what shared solar is when you want to get solar for your house or your small business, but maybe you got trees over your house, so it's too shady. Maybe you don't own your roof because you're in an apartment or a condo, your HOA doesn't allow it. Maybe you're in a small business and you're in a shopping center, you don't own the roof, you want to make a 20-year investment in panels on your roof. So using shared solar, you can purchase a subscription from a company and buy the output, a percentage of the output off their panels and net it against your bill on a monthly basis. That's what shared solar is, and we've authorized that. The big fight last time was over how much of a minimum bill to require people to pay who were getting solar, but also getting some power from the incumbent monopoly, Dominion, and how much that minimum bill should be for using that. Because they still need those wires and those power plants and everything else to provide their power when the solar panels aren't generating solar, right? When we deal with the net metering situation, when somebody has the panels on their own roof, that's what their standby charge is. But for this, we call it a minimum bill. So this went to the State Corporation Commission who litigated it, and it was litigated in front of them, and they came out with a minimum bill which was an average of $59 a month for a single-family home. It's less than that for a townhouse, less than that for an apartment condo. The solar providers say that they can't get any projects financed with a minimum bill that's that high, and they also feel like the SCC did not consider any of the benefits that come with solar vis-a-vis what we do right now. So things like, you have reduced transmission costs with shared solar because the solar projects are typically 5 megawatts, about 30 acres, and they're spread all over the place, and so you have parts of the grid that stay powered. You don't have to rely as much on transmission lines. Solar power is cleaner than natural gas or coal power, and so there's less health benefits, climate change effects, all that stuff. The SCC did not consider any of that from their perspective in determining that minimum bill. That's mainly what this bill seeks to address. So that's the one thing it seeks to address. The other piece, here's the other problem this bill is addressing, is that the bill also had a program for low-income customers. And it said that any low-income customer doesn't have to pay any minimum bill at all. And the thought is they would go after all the paying customers, and so we put in a requirement they have to have at least a certain amount of low-income customers, and then they would get a little bit extra megawatts to do their plan. That was the idea, was mainly paying, full freight customers, the people live in houses and stuff, and the low-income customers would be sort of this side program. Well, the problem is the low-income customers don't pay any minimum bill. Developers have been able to sell that one. So they're putting solar on all these affordable apartment complexes, and the program is basically going to be nothing but a low-income solar program. What we thought was going to be the small part of the program is going to eat the whole program, and none of them are going to be contributing towards all the costs that everybody else pays. So what this bill seeks to do is to require the SCC to consider the benefits of solar in the minimum bill process, put a cap on the low-income program, raise the cap on the overall program, because there's a whole bunch of federal tax benefits and things that are available now.
What you have is this minimum standby type charge.
Well, I can tell you what the SCC ordered, which I told you is it's about $59 a month for your average single-family 1,000-kilowatt house. Then it goes down to, I forget, like they anticipate $25 to $30 for apartments, and townhouses are right in the middle, I think is what they anticipate. And the solar developers say that they can't get a project financed at that type minimum bill. I believe the minimum standby charge is like under $10, I think, for if you have panels on your own house, I think. So this is much higher than that. So I can tell you that this is probably the substitute you have before you, I think, is like the fourth draft of this. We've been engaged in conversations with Dominion about it now for probably 2 months, and it's gotten especially, heavy in the last week or two. Those conversations have continued. We're not at home plate yet. We don't have peace in the valley yet, but there's an optimism that we can get to peace in the valley. And so the hope is that we pass this bill, keep the process moving, and then we continue to deal with this, and you'll probably see this come back different if the other side thinks we need to continue the conversation. That's the expectations. And I can get more specific about any of the details if you all need me to, but again, these details keep moving around.
Mr. Chairman? Do we have I don't see a substitute.
It's online.
Okay.
You have to adopt it. All right. We need to adopt the substitute. So moved. Motion and a second to adopt the substitute. 1266 and 1266. All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Substitute's adopted. So your minimum charge that you pay to the utility company is $59?
If you're not a low-income customers don't pay any minimum charge. If you live in a house like Dick Saslow lives in, I've been to your house, you'll probably be about $59. Okay? If you live in an apartment, it's probably closer to 30.
Right.
And that's before you get a single electron under existing law. That's how it will work.
Right.
But under this law, that all changes. And it's more complicated. I can get into the complexity if anybody wants me to, but it's complicated.
All right. All right. Is there support for the bill in the audience?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Patrick Cushing on behalf of the Coalition for Community Solar Access. We are the association that represents the developers of these projects. I want to take my time to point you to where really I think the bulk of the amendments are and the substance of this bill, which is on page 4 of the substitute, lines 86 to 96. And what you'll see that we have done is directed the SCC to look at the benefits and actually calculate the benefits. Yes, sir, calculate the benefits. We're not prescribing what the value of those benefits are. We're leaving that within the discretion of the SCC. The second thing that we've done that differs from earlier versions of this draft is if you look at lines 94, 95, and 96, we have retained language that requires the commission to ensure that the subscribers of our projects are paying their fair share to the utility for service and also minimize any potential cost shift to customers not in a shared solar program. So this falls in line with leaving discretion with the SCC while providing benefits to the subscribers and also protecting the existing ratepayers in the utility system. So appreciate the senator and appreciate Dominion's work with us on this bill.
Thank you, Patrick. Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Carla Loeb, Head of Government Affairs for Arcadia. We are a software company. We are the largest provider of subscriptions for shared solar in the country, operating across the country. We support this bill. We believe it is a good option for consumers to be able to choose energy and to save on energy bills at a time where costs are inflated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Victoria Higgins for Chesapeake Climate Action Network, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Josephus Allman with the Southern Environmental Law Center. We support this bill. And
thank you.
Thanks Senator Sturvell for his leadership on this issue.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Abigail Thompson with Gentry Lock Consulting. On behalf of the Solar Energy Industries Association and Dimension Renewable Energy, we support this bill.
Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Stephanie Johnson with the Chesapeake Solar and Storage Association, and we also support this bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Peter Anderson with Appalachian Voices. We thank the senator for his hard work. Thank the stakeholders. We support the bill.
Next.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Dana Wiggins with the Virginia Poverty Law Center. We appreciate the senator's efforts and particularly around including what is included in the minimum bill. That's the thing that we cared most about, so thank you.
Next.
Mr. Chair, Brittany Whitley on behalf of Apex Clean Energy, headquartered out of Charlottesville, and we support the bill.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Tanisha Griffin, New Virginia Majority. We support the bill.
Okay. Next.
Mr. Chair, Kim Germain with Advanced Energy United. We support the bill.
Okay.
We have one speaker on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thomas, you may unmute and speak now.
Thomas Turner for Conservatives for Clean Energy, and we support the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. Is that it for the online? Is there opposition to the bill?
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak in opposition, please raise your hand electronically.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Catherine Bond with Dominion Energy. With gratitude to the patron, we do believe we can continue to work through this if it proceeds through the process to address concerns we have, including the stricken language at the beginning of Section D, which today says that the customers that are part of the subscribing programs should pay all of the infrastructure and services costs associated with the utility providing service to them. Our concerns are related to shifting costs to non-participating customers. The State Corporation Commission has conducted a proceeding to minimize that. And again, supportive of working through the process and are confident we can continue the discussion.
But what did you say?
We're supportive of the bill continuing to move through the process, Senator, and are confident we can work through the concerns that we have on the bill.
Mr. Chairman. In other words, you think you all can get this totally worked out in the process?
Mr. Chair, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Newman.
So my concern is cross-shifting, right? So as the bill's written now, not as it might be later on, are there any stranded costs or any other costs that someone that selects to do this can be transferred to the rest of the ratepayers, including the low-income ratepayers? So people in my area, if someone decides to do this, are there any people that those costs are going to be switched to because they made that choice?
Mr. Chair, I would respond to Senator Newman that that is also Dominion Energy's concern. I would point you to the language in the beginning of Section D. It says the calculation of individual customers' minimum bill shall be based on the kilowatt hours billed by the utility rather than the subscriber's portion of the shared solar facility. It also enumerates a number of benefits that have to be quantified without now enumerating the costs. As part of the original proceeding, the Commission was allowed to consider both and came up with a minimum bill that they, in their view, minimized cost shifting to other customers. What we want to ensure is that we don't have a situation where somebody is subscribing to 1,000 kilowatt hours, utilizing 1,000 kilowatt hours from the grid, but then paying nothing because in effect they net out. So again, confident we can work through that with continued discussion with the Senator and proponents of the bill.
Okay. All right. Bill is a substitute. Did we adopt a substitute? Substitute is before us for 1266.
Move to report.
There's a motion and a second to report Senate Bill 1266 in the form of a substitute. All those in favor vote aye.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
All right, ayes 12, noes 3. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My last bill is 886.
He wants that by turn. Okay.
And there's a substitute on that.
Hold on.
Oh, it's an amendment? It's an amendment, sorry.
What's your bill number?
886.
I see it here, okay.
I need a copy of that, too. I'm usually more prepared than this, I'm sorry.
Okay. Transmit.
Mr. Chairman, there's a line amendment on this one requested by the hospitals, I think.
Okay.
Or and the Medical Society.
Briefly, what's the amendment do?
According to the Medical Society and the hospitals, it effectuates our mutual intent. So basically what the bill does, Your Honor, I'm still going to get out of that.
I've been called a lot of things, but never that.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, what Senate Bill 886 does, it's identical to legislation you all passed. We passed out of our chamber last year. It basically requires sick leave for grocery store workers and almost all healthcare workers, but not quite. And the amendment has to do with the not quite part. So, okay. If you heard what Tom said, it moves the clause from the end of the sentence to the beginning to make sure it's really clear what it means. But so, if you look at the bill, lines 35 through 38 or 39 have the definitions, define what a grocery store worker and healthcare provider is. And then up at the top, it says that we're going to do sick leave. We already did sick leave, I think, in 2021 for home healthcare workers. This adds healthcare providers and grocery store workers. You all probably don't remember this, but last year we made some tweaks to the grocery store definition because the grocery stores thought we were letting Walmart and, I don't know, some of these other big box stores that sell food that I don't go in there to buy my groceries, but I guess they felt like we're creating an unlevel playing field. And so basically we had to tweak the definition to make it pick up all grocery store workers, not just people that are actually in grocery stores, but people that are in stores that sell the food. And then healthcare providers, the hospitals and the medical society wanted to make it clear that we weren't picking up these, what they call PRN healthcare workers that travel around and work part-time. And the amendment sort of cleans that up, makes it clear. But I would just say, Mr. Chairman, I think during the pandemic we learned that there are some people out there that are on the front lines, like our grocery store workers and our healthcare workers, that have to work no matter how bad it gets when we have viruses floating around and other illnesses floating around. And these are people that we want to incentivize to stay healthy. And if they don't have sick leave, many of them are forced to work even when they're sick. And they might have, for example, during the COVID scenario, they might be working the cash register with COVID because they couldn't afford to go on sick leave. We give them sick leave, they can go home if they picked it up at work and not continue to transmit the virus to other people. And I think we owe our frontline workers sick leave if they have no choice but to be out there every day. I would note that the UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers, estimated 91,000 of their members, actually 456 of their members were killed by COVID. And I've read many stories in the paper about healthcare workers being killed by COVID because they had to work. And Mr. Chairman, this bill passed our chamber, I think, on a party line vote last year, although I did get some bipartisan support on this committee last time and on the Finance Committee last time. And I would hope we could get out of here and send it over to the House again.
Senator Norman.
A couple of questions, Senator Servell. Does it still have the threshold that has been eliminated at 20 hours a week and 90 hours a month? Stated differently, what does a worker have to do to be qualified for receiving these benefits?
You have to meet the definition on line 39, which is to be a healthcare provider under 801, 581.1, which I believe is the Med-Mal-Cap definition of a licensed health professional, so a licensed healthcare worker. And then if you look, Mr. Chairman, down in lines 69 through 74, that's where the healthcare workers get pulled back out. So
My succinct question is there any minimum hour threshold they have to work per week or per month?
No, but they're allowed to waive their right to accrue sick leave in writing under subsection F if they're under 30 hours.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that that's the employee's right to waive.
Correct.
Not the employer's. So somebody conceivably could work 5 hours a week and be eligible for this benefit.
I believe that's correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I keep doing that.
Mr. Chairman, second question. Is the definition of a frontline worker where you talk about we want to keep them healthy and exposed, is that an amorphous term that is going to continue to be expanded? We've gone from healthcare workers to grocery store workers. There are a lot of other frontline people out there. And is this just the beginning of what is going to be an expanded definition of eligible workers?
Mr. Chairman, what I would say to Senator Norman is that the words frontline worker don't appear in the bill. That's a euphemism that I've used to describe this class of folks. I mean, ideally, I would personally like to see everybody get sick leave, but I know we can never agree on that. And so my thought was, we start with the people who are most likely to get sick when we have these kinds of scenarios, and it's our grocery store workers and our healthcare workers, and would hope we at least agree that they ought to have sick leave. We can talk about everybody else later.
Mr. Chairman, that's my concern, and you did make an indirect reference to a union organization earlier, I believe, and I know exactly where this is going. My last question, Mr. Chairman, has any effort been made to try to quantify what the potential financial exposure would be to employers?
They don't give me a FIS on that, so no. There is a FIS for Dolly having to have another person or two to monitor things, but no. I would just suggest, though, if people aren't getting as sick, the healthcare cost everybody will be less too. So, the societal cost, I think, might be neutral or positive. In fact, if people aren't out there getting sick and spreading more illness than we otherwise would see.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just would say to you, part of the reason I ask these questions is I think the altruism in some of our colleagues who want to extend benefits and raise wages sometimes do not pause to try to think about what the fiscal impact is on the employer. And I know in 21 and 22, I just got my end of the year statement on a business that I'm in, and I'm just a little pissant. As a result of one of the bills that was enacted, $110,000 year over year as a result of changes that we made. And I'm just a little guy. And so we come in here with the best of intentions, but rarely do we hear any discussion about what the fiscal impact is going to be on employers, which as a very astute and acute business person, is ultimately going to try to be passed on to the consuming public.
You want to respond?
I think I already did. He was responding to me again, but I can say the same thing back to him if you want.
In the audience, support for 886.
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Yes, Chairperson. Chairperson, members of the committee, my name is Jace Hatcher, Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. 1.2 million workers in Virginia do not have access to any paid time off or PTO, and that includes large amounts of our essential workers, 2/3 of grocery store workers, and 1 in 4 healthcare workers who have direct patient contact, who have no access to PTO. Amongst Virginia voters, this is a bipartisan issue. A 2020 poll done by the Watson Center showed that 83% of registered Virginia voters support a mandate that would allow workers to earn 5 paid sick days per year. And that included 96% of Democrats and 72% of Republicans. So we would urge your strong support for this bill, and we thank the patron for bringing it forward.
Good afternoon. Again, Kayla Mock with UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 400. We support this bill. 63% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. There was a study done in 2022. And when you have that type of situation where workers get sick or they're living paycheck to paycheck, they're going to go to work and get their coworkers and the community sick. This is also a bill that's good for business. According to the National Partnership for Women and Working Families, working sick costs the national economy $234 billion annually in lost productivity. Providing paid sick days could save employers up to $1.8 billion each year through fewer absences from reduced spread of flu-like illnesses alone. For that and many other reasons, we strongly support this bill.
Members of the committee, my name is Christy Vance. I am a Kroger employee out of Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm a single mother of 2. I strongly urge you to support this bill. As a single mother, it is hard for me if I get sick to be at home because living paycheck to paycheck, I've got to be at work to make that money in order to pay my bills because I'm the only one paying my bills. We are, as it was stated earlier, the only industrial country that doesn't offer paid sick time to its workers. Thank you all. Lisa Harris.
Excuse me. Mr. Chairman, it's limited to grocery stores and no. So no, there's no limit like that.
So, but it's just limited to grocery stores?
Grocery stores and healthcare workers, licensed healthcare workers.
Lisa Harris with Kroger, an essential worker for 15 years. I serve about 300 people a day through my own line personally, worked through the pandemic so far with a mother who is at risk or higher risk rather, worried about her health every day, worried about my coworkers' health and spreading it to each other, worried about the people I serve, giving it to them potentially, or any other illness I may have. Please consider this bill. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janet Wainwright. I'm a Kroger employee. I'm a meat cutter in Yorktown, Virginia. I encourage you to support this bill. It's very important to me and all of my coworkers. We're the ones that supply you food. How many of y'all go to the grocery store once or twice a week? Maybe 3 or 4 times a week. It's important that we get sick leave because right now we don't. We could lose our jobs if we call in sick. So this bill is very important for us. Thank you.
Hello, committee. My name is Stuart Martin. I've been a Kroger worker for 13 years, and for all 13 years, I haven't had paid sick leave. You wanted to talk about best intentions? It's been my best intention never to show up to work sick, to take that to a customer's house, and I guarantee you for 13 years, I have had to go to work sick, and so have my coworkers. I urge you to support this bill so we not only can keep our family safe, but every single one of your families safe, because we see you more than your doctors and your religious leaders. So please, let's look out for each other.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Julia Newton, SEIU, and we support this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Doris Kraus Mays, Virginia AFL-CIO, and we support the bill.
Mr. Chair, Freddie Mejia with the Commonwealth Institute, and we support the bill.
Question for the patron. Scott, so what if you are a convenience store gas station owner? Your employees are divided into 2 categories, one who works on cars and then ones who work in the retail sales of canned goods and, bananas and apples, maybe some fruit, and they make pizza and hot dogs and what have you. Would those employees have to be treated differently in this bill?
Yeah, the way, again, we had to tweak the definition of the grocery store worker because of the concern that the grocery stores, the Krogers of the world, thought that the way the bill was originally drafted last year only applied to them, but didn't apply to, for example, Walmart, who has a big section where they sell food, and it would create that disadvantage. So we changed the definition of grocery store worker to make the grocery stores less unhappy, to say that it's an employee of the store that is primarily engaged in the retail sale of food and preparing food in an area of a grocery store that is not separately owned and where food is prepared and served. So it depends what you're primarily engaged in.
Scott, in Northern Virginia and maybe in a lot of Richmond, grocery stores mean Kroger's and Food Lion and Publix, but I know there's a little grocery store down the street here, Robinson Street Grocery. I bet they don't have more than 5 people who work there. Out my way, there's McDormand's Grocery out in Hinton, Virginia. Tiny little grocery store, probably 3, maybe 4 part-time people and the owner. And I just can't see imposing this burden on these tiny little grocery stores all over the Commonwealth of Virginia. I mean, they're all going to disappear. I mean, they're disappearing now, but this just assures that they're going to be gone tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman, The solution to that, if you want to get into it, is on line 38, just at the end, just add that employs less than X employees, whatever that number is. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, et cetera. That's the solution to that problem.
Mr. Chairman, just say I would support this action because I know we've had discussions about food deserts where we have areas that have like no grocery stores, and the last thing I want to do is contribute to make that worse. I don't know, 25 a good number?
I don't want to offer it just because I'm not going to support the bill. I don't want to give the patron.
I'll make the motion that apply stores that have less than 25.
You mean more? You mean more than 25, I assume.
You would need more than 25.
Right.
You're saying 50?
He said 25.
25 seconds. Okay.
We never adopted the earlier amendments the medical society and the hospitals requested.
Okay, first let's deal with those. The earlier amendments, is there a motion? Second. I make a motion. And a second. All right. All those in favor of adopting those amendments, say aye.
Aye.
All right, they're adopted now. You have to have more than 25 employees for this bill to apply to you as a grocery store.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting that, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that amendment's been adopted. All right.
I don't think you asked for opponents.
Is there any other opposition to this?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
I'll be brief. Melissa Assalone with the Virginia Food Industry Association, representing grocery retailers across the Commonwealth. We oppose the bill.
Marcia T., please unmute and provide your testimony now. Marcia Tedderton.
I'm working on it. Hi, Marcy Tedderton. I'm with the Virginia Association for Home Care and Hospice. There was a bill that was passed last session. It dealt specifically with consumer-directed attendance in the Medicaid program. It left about 20,000 individuals out in the cold with no sick leave benefits. We estimate that the physical impact for Medicaid will be between $8 and $10 million in general fund money. Without funding, we will not be able to afford to provide sick leave.
That completes the speakers.
We have to go to finance. All right, there's a motion. Second. As amended, second to report as amended and return to finance, Senate Bill 886. All those in favor of reporting and referring to finance, vote aye.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Senator Parker, got one bill. Senate Bill 1409. Senator Bill, you have two bills, right? Just one. That's right, you have one. Okay, 1249. All right, you're going next, and then Senator Mason. I think you're the one that's just on the clock. 1509? Yeah. Okay. Senator Parker, you're up.
All right, I have Senate Bill 1409. It's dealing with Medicare supplement policies for individuals on certain individuals under the age of 65. Not too long after Medicare was established back in the 1960s, it was expanded to include coverage for people who had end-stage renal disease, kidney problems, that were under the age of 65. That has been in place for ever since then, but there are people who have end-stage renal disease who are under age 65 and have great difficulty accessing all the services that they need because Medicare pays only 80% of what the expenditures are and what the approved charges are. And then on the 20% that Medicare is not paying, they do not have, right now in Virginia, they do not have insurance coverage that's available under a Medigap policy. What you have is people who often need dialysis, often 3 times a week to that, so it's fairly expensive, and they end up being shortchanged in terms of being able to get the full complement of services for an extended period of time. There are a couple of states that have developed Medigap plans that in one state there's 45 different insurers that provide coverage under the Medigap program that provide coverage for these people who are under the age of 65 to help them with the 20% that they have to pay out of pocket right now. And with that, then we do have a couple of amendments to be adopted, line amendments that when this bill was moving through the House of Delegates so far, and this would make it comparable to what's theirs. And so I would move the amendments for the line amendments for this bill.
Mr. Chair, on line 39, insert effective January 1, 2024. And then on line 42, strike exceeds and insert exceed. And the same line after age, strike or older, so that would be read that exceed the premium rates charged for such plan to individuals who are 65 years of age.
All right, so you've heard the amendments, the motion was adopted.
Second.
Motion second to adopt the amendments. All those in favor of adopting them, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the bills before us as amended. Questions in the face?
I do have a couple of people here who can testify to it.
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in support of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Elizabeth Lively with Dialysis Patient Citizens. This bill builds on the work that Senator Edwards did back in 2020 with Senate Bill 250 that granted access to Medigap plans for disabled under age 65 Virginians. This bill adds in end-stage renal disease, and it has a premium protection in place. Like our patron, Senator Barker, said, this is modeled after the premium protection that is in Kansas, has been in Kansas since 1999. In Kansas, they have one risk pool, not 2 risk pools like here in Virginia. There are more than 45 insurers in Kansas who are writing plans for the under age 65 market. In Virginia, if you want to buy one of these plans, it can be up to $550. In Kansas, it's around $140. So clearly, it makes these plans way more affordable. There's about 3,400 individuals in Virginia that would be covered by this, so it's a very small cohort. And, excuse me. And what would it cost to the overall pool? We did an independent actuarial study looking at exactly that question. Health Management Associates took a look at this. They looked at Medicare claims data for fee-for-service, adding in these 3,400 Virginians to be able to buy affordable Medigap plans would raise the overall pool around 1%, $1 to $2 a month. I urge your support of this bill. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Hoffman with the American Kidney Fund. We're grateful to Senator Edwards for his work in the last Senate session for implementing policies to ensure that other disability communities under 65 have access to Medigap plans. This bill will ensure that the vulnerable population of around 3,400 ESRD patients who are non-Medicaid eligible, patients who are eligible to purchase plans and are not practically denied coverage by providing premium protection that will make these plans affordable. Presently, premiums for Medigap plans issued to qualified under 65 subscribers can cost up to 300% more than premiums paid by those over age 65. Another important thing to note is that secondary insurance is often required and able to be put on a transplant list, the wait list for a transplant. So because of that, this legislation will not only save lives or make saving lives possible, but it will make it easier for patients to cope with the serious financial challenges that come with being diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. We have heard a story after story across the country of ESRD patients spending down their assets to be eligible for Medicaid or moving across state borders to be eligible for Medicaid in other states or other Medigap options available. Allowing these individuals to purchase their own supplemental insurance is the compassionate choice for patients and the fiscally responsible decision for the state.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else in support of the bill? Is there opposition?
Mr. Chairman, Doug Gray, on behalf of the Virginia Association of Health Plans. We have several members who offer this coverage. We are not supportive of this approach because the two pools that are being merged are the folks above 65 and the folks below that have end-stage renal disease. So you're basically subsidizing the folks below by increasing the premium for those above. We don't think that's a great idea when there are other options available to folks who have end-stage renal disease in Virginia that will be just as effective and won't have the negative impact on the people who are above. We have special needs plans that are D-SNP and C-SNP, and we have Medicaid Advantage plans that are very good and do a good job of controlling the cost sharing. I think the practical problem with this approach is it basically is financing a move towards fee-for-service. If you pick Medicare A and B, you have to pay 20%. And so what's happening here is the folks who provide dialysis services are saying, we'd like them to use A and B and come to see us in an outpatient facility rather than, let's say, do it at home. And that's, in fact, what Medicare's policy is. In the first 3 months, they encourage you to learn how to do dialysis at home. And the reason they do that is because they want folks to do it at home, not to go to the fee-for-service location.
Okay.
So anyway, we think there are ways to handle this that don't have the negative impact on those who are above 65 and on a fixed income and using a med sub plan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jeff Palmer on behalf of AHIP. I think the proponents of this legislation, and we agree on one thing, that your constituents over 65 that are on a Medigap plan will pay more if this bill passes. They say it's going to be a 1% increase. According to our analysis, it's going to be more like a 9 to a 16% increase on your constituents over 65, many of whom are on a fixed income, that are going to be paying more for their Medigap coverage because we're taking a high-risk group that's under 65 and putting them in the same pool with the existing group that's over 65. When you put the high-risk folks into that same pool, it's going to raise the rates that everybody in that pool is paying. So we think the right approach is to do an actuarial study that brings everybody together and through HERC or whatever it might be to figure out what the costs on your constituents over 65 will be. So thank you.
All right. Okay, the bill is before us.
Move the report.
There's a motion to report. Is there a second? Motion and a second to report Senate Bill 1409 with the amendments. All those in favor of reporting 1409 as amended, vote aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill's reported. All right, Senator Bell, you're up, and you've got 1249. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, there is a substitute.
All right, there's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute to Senate Bill 1249. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, the 1249 as a substitute is before us.
Mr. Chairman, one of the problems that is occurring today very regularly, and there's an amphitheater in my area, and it's one of many around the country like this, venues for concerts and shows and other things. If you Google it, I just did, I got like 6 different hits for it, and only one of them is the real deal. But I'll tell you, the other ones look exactly like the real site. They're hard to tell apart. And if you go to the ones that aren't the real one, you're probably going to pay substantially more for the tickets to the same event, even in the same seat, same area. So what this does is we've narrowed this focus down with the substitute. And it really just focuses on the deceptive websites that are out there to lead consumers. And we talk about if you have the site that is yours, if you are the owner of said facility, people can't just take your copyright and put it on somebody else's site. There's got to be disclosure on that. And there's lots of instances. One recent concert that was there it's coming up for this July, Matchbox 20. The ticket value was for lawn tickets, $30.50 on the real site. But if you go to one of these deceptive sites, these copy sites, they go from anywhere from $54 to $98. Same ticket, same area. And frankly, many consumers, I don't know if they're savvy enough or they have the time to look at these to tell that these are fake sites. And that they're not really representing the real one. I think it really hurts people who've done business honestly in Virginia, who've invested to do business, who developed this website, and then others are able to copyright or invade in their copyright of what they've done and sell it as theirs. So I think it hurts people who've invested in Virginia and also hurts the consumer. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think we have peace in the valley on this. I hate to say those words because they bite you sometimes, but I don't know of any opposition to this bill.
All right, any questions of the patron? All right, in the audience, is there anyone out there in support of the bill?
There are no more attendees in Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Nicole Brenner with Reed Smith on behalf of Live Nation. Want to thank the patron for his work on the bill. We've worked with stakeholders on the substitute that takes out the speculative ticketing piece, and it now only pertains to deceptive websites, as Senator Bell said. These fall into two categories in the substitute that's in front of you. The first applies to the use of trademarked URLs or images. So right now, one company would have to pursue an action against another. The bill before you would allow the Attorney General to pursue an action if they felt like there was harm to Virginia consumers. The second clause is limited only to venues like those that we and others operate in Virginia. For example, we operate Jiffy Lube Live in Bristow, and if you Google Jiffy Lube Live Bristow, there are a number of fake websites that come up. One of them that, again, uses the same pictures and looks like it is the actual venue website. The language requires the website to be substantially similar and have the intent to mislead the consumer. This legislation or similar legislation has been passed in other states, and we would ask you to support the bill.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, is there anyone out there in opposition? Move the report. Motion and a second to report as a substitute, Senate Bill 1249. All those in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 1509, in keeping with tradition, there's a substitute.
Second.
Motion to adopt substitute Senate Bill 1509. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
And the substitute is a substitute because they were working with folks to make sure we got this thing squared away. This is the home solicitation section that reads like something out of the Encyclopedia Britannica, door-to-door sales. That's not exactly happening this day. What this is trying to, so when you buy a new television, you go into the store, you can buy insurance to take care of the television. If you're buying it online on Amazon, you can do the same. Buy the insurance to take care of the television. What this anticipates is my TV broke, and you come into my home to fix it. And while in my home, the repair person can say, you have this on one TV, you know, we can provide this service for all your TVs, for your phones, for other devices that you have. This would allow that. The substitute also includes the car dealers who has to be a part. I can't imagine them going door to door, knocking on doors, trying to flip your car. But I do get a truckload of emails about their interest in one of them or two of them that I have. And so I would think that that anticipates if you, maybe your lease is expiring on your car, you'd get some emails that say, hey, would you like to talk to us about a new lease or upgrade or buying it out? And would give them the opportunity to bring a car if you wanted to test drive it to your house, rather than you having to go in and get it. That's my anticipation of why they were included. That's a bill, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, as a former door-to-door Britannica encyclopedia salesman, this is I think it's a good bill.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, Senator Edwards, you're the man. I sold copiers and fax door-to-door in a commercial environment, and it was brutal. Couldn't imagine swinging through the neighborhoods. What do you think, Mr. Chairman? You like that? Mm-hmm.
I was telling Senator Norman, back in the late 60s, I think I read it in the Wall Street Journal, they did a story on what it took for this fellow to become the top salesman for Encyclopedia Britannica. And on over a 3 or 4 year period, on an average of 12 times a year, he was arrested for forcible entry into a house. On a half a dozen occasions, on the way to jail, he pitched and sold the arresting officers, and twice from the floor of the courtroom, the judges had sentenced him. That's a salesman.
Igloos to Eskimos, Mr. Chairman.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report as a substitute to 1509, Senate Bill 1509, the substitute form. All those in favor, vote aye. All right.
You got Mars. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. It's reported.
Mr. Chairman, I believe I have some for Wednesday. We're gonna meet Wednesday. We got a couple of bills. Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, so we do have my colleagues looking like I'm crazy. It ain't my fault, it's their fault.
Whatever, I'm here. Whatever.
We got two bills, I believe, right?
Okay. 2 bills.
We only got 2 bills.
And that'll be it. And we have some of the ones that were passed by today. A lot of them will be next Monday, but it'll be hopefully a quick calendar.